What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 6 deciseconds. 146 sharp, unstoppable. Then, Dean Riding and Senju Hashirama at the side started to make mudra with both hands at the same time. Although Dean Riding does not need to perform a seal to perform ninjutsu, the process of performing a seal can calm Dean Riding's heart. After all, each imprint is designed by Senju Hashirama himself. During the process of forming the imprint, the mood of the ninjutsu practitioner can gradually calm down, which is also the dominance of this ninjutsu. After all, once this kind of ninjutsu is needed, it means that the performer has already encountered great trouble. Spellcasters with a calm mind can also think of more coping methods in extreme moments. At the same time, a mighty chakra directly began to brew in the bodies of the two of them. Dean Riding and Senju Hashirama both entered Sage stance for a split second. Summoning Technique 5, Re-Rashomon. At the same time, Dean Riding and Senju Hashirama's hands fell to the ground below the ground at the same time. The next moment, two highly overlapping mysterious black round marks appeared directly above the ground. Boom. Then, the ground suddenly made a loud trembling sound. Two huge figures that looked like half of Yama began to appear below the ground. But this huge Yan Luo finally only applied for two huge heads. Yan Luo's head also completely turned into a three-dimensional shape, like a thick gate. Dean Riding and Senju Hashirama, both of them shot at the same time, directly constructing 10 Rashomons with a lot of chakra fluctuations in front of everyone. You must know that in myths and legends, every Rashomon points to the gate of the boundary between the world and hell. According to legend, Rashomon can even withstand the impact of many evil spirits. Therefore, there is no doubt about the huge defensive power of Rashomon itself. And Senju Hashirama also relied on his wonderful performance to directly communicate with the hell of the ninja world, and finally created this huge defense method. After Dean Riding inherited Senju Hashirama's wood style, he also perfectly cast the summoning spell of this wood style attribute. The first time the 10 thick Rashomons appeared, even Spandane had a dull look on his face. Ha 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 ha. Soon, however, Spandine began to laugh. Because for him, the so-called gate in front of him was not taken seriously by him at all. It's so ridiculous, relying on the gate made of piles of stones and rotten wood. Do you want to stop Uranus directly? It turns out that the guys in the dimension retrograde are a group of whimsical existences. Advertisement. Soon, Spandine's voice became grim. You will pay with your life for your ignorance. Smash it, stupid challengers. Boom. Accompanied by a deafening roar, a huge white light group came directly from the depths of the Holy Land Mariajoy towards the area where Dean Riding and others were. At the same time, the entire sky turned completely white. The white light made it seem like a huge blank area appeared in the entire sky. At the same time, people all over the world are also paying attention to the live broadcast. At this time, Morgans had already placed a large number of phones in the distance around the battlefield. Zero looking for flowers. Because at the moment when the white disc was about to arrive, many phone bugs near the edge of the battlefield were all destroyed in an instant. Everyone can only watch the final blow in front of them from a distance of 3 kilometers away from the battlefield. At the same time, with the sudden blooming of the white light wave, the huge white light directly contacted the first Rashomon. However, it soon fell to Rashomon, and it was completely broken. In front of the huge white light group, the first Rashomon is as fragile as a piece of paper. In a very short period of time, the 5 Rashomons were pierced one after another. However, at this time, the speed of the white light group just slowed down a bit, because the energy contained in it didn't seem to be affected at all. When they saw this, the faces of Dean Riding and others became very ugly. Even Ace Kano on the side couldn't help but said in a deep voice, "We're really in big trouble now." Roar. There was a sound of dragon howling. I saw that the black dragon Akunologia directly entered the dragon transformation state, and directly blocked his huge dragon body behind the last Rashomon. When the huge white light group breaks through the last Rashomon, the black dragon Akunologia will use his body to win an escape channel for everyone. Everyone who saw this scene fell silent. Even Ace Kano didn't say anything. Because everyone understands that if the black dragon does not stand up, no one will survive. Even at this moment, Dean Riding had a bitter look on his face. 147 Spandane's ambition. It doesn't need to be like this. As long as I'm still alive, no matter how serious the black dragon Akunologia's injury is, he can heal again as time goes by. This is the special characteristic carried by each summoned object. It's just that once the summoned character is in a real dying state, it will take a very long time to reappear in this world. When they heard this, everyone felt a little relieved, but the heavy pressure lingering in their hearts did not weaken in the slightest. And at this time, the white light group also came directly in front of the last Rashomon. 260. Boom. Accompanied by a huge roaring sound, the last one arrived at Rashomon and still did not resist for long. The white light group still easily broke through the last Rashomon's defense. When he saw this, he was in the palace in the distance, and Spandane, who was observing the situation in front of him, had a look of anticipation on his face. Dimension retrograde, I want to see how you survive this time. You don't know what to say, I want you all to fall in the Holy Land Mariajoy. It is also extremely rare for Spandane to get this chance to use Uranus. After all, he is just the leader of the spy agency, and the spy agency is more responsible for the infiltration of other forces. Therefore, Spandane regards this mission as a good opportunity for him to continue to strengthen his subordinates. As long as he can perform this task perfectly, it is conceivable that his position in the hearts of everyone in the world government will become more and more secure. All the positions in the world government are hereditary system, and at this time, the excitement in his son's heart became more obvious when he thought of winning the private game. Son, don't worry, I will definitely lay down a bigger foundation for you. For what it's worth, this guy's son's name is none other than Spandam. But at this moment, when I saw the huge light group, directly broke through the last Rashomon, and was about to reach the front of the dimension retrogrades. The people who were watching the live broadcast could not help but exclaim. It's over, it's really Uranus, even the huge shield on the main road can't block it. And it was obvious just now that Senju Hashirama and the captain of the dimension retrograde, Dean Riding, had already attacked directly, but they still couldn't stop Uranus's attack. Advertisement. Can the dimension retrograde guys really survive this attack? Is it true that no pirate can live in peace after provoking world conquest? On the sea, the emotions of the many pirates who were watching the battle in front of them were very low. Because they didn't want to see the dimensional retrograde who they had placed high hopes on completely fell in the holy land of Mariajoy. However, the situation in front of him seems to have been completely doomed. At the same time, all members of the Luogia pirates were silent, and everyone's eyes were tightly locked on the picture ahead. At this time, Luogia was muttering secretly in his heart. Dean Riding, you must not compromise here, we will open up a bigger situation together in the future. 0 inches. If you die here completely like this, it will be a huge loss to the whole world. Pluton Rayleigh's eyes flickered, and the thoughts in his mind were running wildly. Pluton Rayleigh is better at layout, so he himself is very optimistic about the dimensional retrograde. And in Pluton Rayleigh's understanding, there is a fundamental difference between the new guy and the multi-cadres of the Lox pirates. Under the leadership of Lox himself, the Lox pirates continue to invade many countries and islands around the world. Therefore, the existence of the Lox pirates has played a more destructive role in this world. But dimensional retrograde is different. As the captain, Dean Riding even directly led many strong men of the retrograde dimension to stay in Dora Vega for a whole year. And within that year, the Luogia pirates, including most of the pirates, were developing crazily. Dean Riding was able to endure loneliness, which meant that he didn't really have much desire for the rights and territory in the world of 5.9. Therefore, it can be seen that in the future, Dimension Walker will also become a loyal ally of Luogia pirates. Therefore, Pluton Rayleigh naturally does not want the dimension, the retrograde, to fall completely in the holy land of Mariajoy. At the same time, the atmosphere of the Lox pirates became very heavy. At this time, Lox frowned tightly, with a gloomy expression. In fact, he had already regarded the dimensional retrograde as his future subordinate. 0.148 Enormization, Heaven and Earth. As for whether Dean Riding and others will reject this proposal, Lox has also thought about this possibility in his mind. But Lox has already prepared corresponding countermeasures in his heart. In the face of absolute power, Lox believes that the group of dimension retrogrades will definitely make the most sensible choice. Therefore, Lox also does not want to see all the dimension retrogrades die completely like this. And at this time, the worried looks on the faces of Golden Lion and Whitebeard have completely surfaced. Naturally, they don't want the partners they can chat with to die completely in the hands of the world government. However, judging from the current situation, it seems that everything in front of us can no longer be changed. Even Charlotte Linlin's eyes were full of pity. In his opinion, in the entire team of retrogrades, except for Tushan Yaya, most of the other men are very high quality. This is Charlotte Linlin's most ideal marriage and the best candidate for offspring under the stone. The most central location of the Mariajoy battlefield. Just when the last Rashomon was directly broken through, the huge body of the black dragon Akunologia stood in front of the white light group without hesitation. It's just the simplest kind of magic. If you lose your long-term energy reserves, all Uranus will only be so big. Dragon slaying magic, the mystery is shattered. The black dragon Akunologia directly opened its huge dragon mouth at the last moment. The rich black energy was frantically gathered. Then, the black energy kept blocking the black dragon Akunologia like balls of solid ice. At this time, the black dragon also completely released all the energy stored in its body, frantically casting ice defensive spells in an attempt to intercept the attack of the huge energy light ball. At this time, Dean Riding and others were all quietly watching the scene in front of them. With the situation on the court changing rapidly, they had no time to make any other reactions. And all of this happened completely in an instant. In the next class, the layers of black ice were directly broken by the white light ball. Then the body of the black dragon Akunologia was directly hit by the white light ball. Boom. Then, a huge roaring sound appeared, and the surface of the black dragon Akuno Nokia's body quickly became bloodline Madara. However, at this moment, the black dragon Akuno Nokia still did not retreat in the slightest. Advertisement. Because he knows very well that there is a huge difference between sacrificing him alone and sacrificing the entire dimension pirates. At this moment, Dean Riding frowned. Although Dean Riding really wanted to go straight up, but at this time she did not inherit the full strength of everyone present. At this time, the strength that Dean Riding can display is completely inferior to that of the black dragon Akunologia. Roar. There was a huge roaring sound. Just when everyone thought that the black dragon Akunologia was going to die directly in front of the white disc, a golden light suddenly burst out among the dimensional retrograde team. Fatn Shangdi. I saw Tushan Yaya's body surface flashing golden light suddenly. Then, a huge nine-tails fox that was as big as a mountain appeared directly on the scene. Tushan Yaya directly sacrificed her real body, and used the method of Fatn Shangdi to directly make her real body several times larger. The nine-tails fox, who had always been like a mountain peak, directly blocked the black dragon Akunologia, and Tushan Yaya's right claw directly locked the black dragon's body, and threw it into the crowd. But at this time, Dean Riding and others naturally caught the black dragon Akunologia directly. But at this time, Tushan Yaya was forced to face the huge white ball of light after casting the law of heaven and earth. In the first instant, the huge white light ball directly hit Tushan Yaya's body. However, 673, perhaps because it has been weakened in many ways, so at this time, the lethality of the white light ball is no longer so terrifying. At the same time, Tushan Yaya's voice also emerged directly from the bottom of Dean Riding's heart. Dean Riding quickly began to wink at the retrograde beside him. The retrograde who became Yuji fan also made corresponding preparations in the first place. Roar. The gigantic nine-tails fox directly uttered a huge roar, fighting for a golden light to bloom on its surface. It actually directly blocked the attack of the white light ball. And this scene completely shocked Spandane, who was in the palace. How is this possible? How can these guys block the attack of Uranus? You know, a blow from Uranus can even directly destroy a small country. And this kind of huge energy, even if several marine admirals add up, it is impossible to realize it in an instant. 149 The ground above the white battlefield. That's why Spandine and world government have always been winning. I thought that at the first moment when Uranus's attack appeared, everyone in the dimension retrograde would be completely blasted to death. However, I didn't expect that a huge portal appeared first, and then the black dragon Akunologia blocked the first wave of attacks with its huge dragon body. Unexpectedly, at the last moment, even Tushan Yaya stood up directly. Looking at the huge body of the nine-tails fox in the distance, all the pirates on the entire surface of the sea were all boiling. Is this the strength of the dimensional retrograde? It seems that there are no vases in the team of the retrograde. What the hell is going on with the devil fruit ability this woman possesses? Why can this woman suddenly turn into such a huge nine-tails fox? Even if it's a phantom beast devil fruit, it's impossible to achieve this step of change. Obviously, Tushan Yaya in nine-tails fox form has not only simply enlarged her body, her own defense and combat power have also been greatly enhanced. Otherwise, even if it was Uranus's attack, after many times of weakening, Tushan Yaya would not be able to easily withstand it. At this moment, Tushan's elegant laughter began to come. Holy Land Mariajoy, it's just a place I don't know the so-called, and we will completely level this place in our next consciousness. In the next moment, a fierce look flashed across Tushan Yaya's face, and then she quickly swung her right paw. Tushan Yaya directly launched an attack on Uranus's attack, completely giving up the defensive posture on the surface of the body. The next moment, Tushan Yaya's right paw directly hit the huge white ball of light produced by Uranus. After the golden energy directly attacked the white light ball, two huge energies collided suddenly. Boom. Accompanied by a huge roaring sound, Tushan Yaya's body was instantly covered by a white disc. At the same time, a huge white light wave completely covered the entire battlefield. In the next moment, an extremely sharp howling sound directly resounded through the audience. And this howling sound was exactly the fox's cry from Tushan Yaya. And this scene was clearly spread all over the world through the world live broadcast. When they heard this, the faces of many big pirates showed a dazed look. Advertisement. And the white light group has already completely covered the entire battlefield. Within nearly a minute, the huge energy light waves generated by the white light group still did not dissipate. And the live broadcast screen in front of them seemed to be completely broken, and what everyone saw was just a white world. At this time, the many big pirates who were anxious in their hearts began to curse crazily. Damn Morgans, doesn't know what his news agency does every day. Can't even do something as small as a live broadcast. Morgan's news agency really doesn't need to continue to exist. Its business ability is so poor that it doesn't deserve to live in this world. Damn Morgans, next time I see him I'm going to slap him hard. When there was a problem with the live broadcast for the second time, 8 generations of Morgan's ancestors had already been cordially greeted by many big pirates. At this time, Morgans, who was on a deserted island in the distance, also had a look of helplessness on his face. He had already made contact with many younger brothers who were on the scene in the first place. However, according to the stories of many younger brothers, there was no problem with their live broadcast. The reason why the live broadcast screen was completely covered by white light was because of Uranus's attack, and the aftermath still hadn't completely disappeared. And the camera phone bug couldn't capture the scene at all through the heavy energy light waves. Even Morgans at this time couldn't help but sighed helplessly and said, "It seems that after going down, we have to strengthen the preparations for the live broadcast, otherwise, if we encounter such a big scene next time, I'm afraid the name of the news agency will be ruined by me directly." At this time, the news agency Morgans worked for did not focus on the field of live broadcasting, so the technological strength they had in hand was completely insufficient. Qian Zhao Zhao. At this time, Morgans couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Maybe after this matter is over, I can take the opportunity to form a real live broadcast team. The desire to fight in Morgan's heart has also been aroused again. When everyone above the sea was crazily cursing Morgans, the live broadcast in front of everyone. Start reverting. When the white light waves completely dissipated, the entire battle scene had become a mess. The faces of the many pirates who saw this scene showed a look of extreme astonishment. Only seen in the screen. The ground at the scene has already gone down to a depth of 10 meters. 150 the focus of the world. In other words, on the battlefield of several thousand meters, the entire ground was directly weakened by 10 meters. The inside of the huge pothole was scorched black. The people of Dimensional Retrograde have already completely lost their corresponding figures. And there was no wreckage or blood left at the scene. It was as if under this blow, all the Dimension rebels had already been completely wiped out by Uranus's attack. At this time, Spanda Yinzhong's laughter also began to echo on the entire battlefield. The Dimensional Retrograde has all been wiped out by our world government. Here, I solemnly tell everyone, never try to challenge the world government, the strength of the world government is beyond your imagination. At the same time, the faces of the many big pirates who saw this scene also showed a look of bewilderment and melancholy. A look of bewilderment and melancholy appeared on the faces of the many big pirates who saw this scene. Is it true that everyone in the Dimension Retrograde died completely like this? Didn't they even leave the bones of 597? Could it be that pirates really can't challenge world conquest? Where are those people from Dimension Retrograde? Are they really dead? Within the Locke's pirates. At this time, Locke shook his head with great regret, and said, "It's a pity, Dean Riding and the others are still too impulsive, they shouldn't directly challenge them when they are not fully prepared for their own strength." Sanctuary Mariajoy. After all, the Holy Land is a powerful force that has controlled the world for hundreds of years. There is no doubt about its own background. The face of Captain John, who was standing aside, was also full of emotion, and he couldn't help but said, "It's a pity, these little fellows of Dimensional Retrograde, they originally have infinite potential." Quote. Even Charlotte Linlin on the side said with a complicated expression, "If they can continue to survive, the whole world will have their place. It's a pity that all of this no longer exists." On the other hand, Golden Lion and Whitebeard were silent. The two looked at each other, and both saw the hatred and melancholy in each other's eyes. The two of them also believed that the people of the Dimension Retrograde had already been on the battlefield just now, and there were no bones left. Even if Locke took action himself, it would be impossible for the entire battlefield to be completely shrouded in a minute-long white light wave. Moreover, it is impossible to cut the evacuation of the entire 1,000-meter battlefield ground to a depth of 10 meters. Advertisement. This kind of powerful attack is simply not something that ordinary people can do. Luo Jia pirates. Luo Jia's face was also full of pity, and he said, "It's a pity, the future of this era should belong to the Dimensional Retrograde guys. But they died halfway." Even Pluden Rayleigh couldn't help shaking his head. "At first I was very optimistic about our Luo Jia pirates and would cooperate with them in the future, but unfortunately, I'm afraid we will never have the chance to cooperate BACF again." Jabba was also extremely regretful, nodded and said, "The world is always unpredictable, but no matter how you say it, Dean Riding's decision this time is really too impulsive." In Jabba's heart, he believes that since the potential and strength of many players under Dean Riding are worth looking forward to, then, the people of the Dimension Rebels can continue to hide, and when their strength is strong enough to compete with the world government, they can directly engage in strong alliances or head-on collisions. The powerful strength displayed by the Dimension Retrograde at that time may shock the whole world. Instead of being like now, although their strength is strong enough, they are not enough to shake the world government. At the same time, on a deserted island far away from the Holy Land of Mariajoy, Morgans directly received the latest information from his subordinates, and soon a dull look appeared on his face. "What? Are you telling the truth? Change the live broadcast screen immediately, click. It's a focus, and it's a focus that everybody in the world is focusing on." Morgan's whole body began to shake crazily, and his face was full of ecstasy. Then, when all the pirates watching the live broadcast were about to turn off the phone bug, suddenly found that the picture in front of them had changed. The scene in the picture soon came to the sea in the distance of the Holy Land Mariajoy. A large number of ripples suddenly appeared above the sea surface, and then, a huge shadow seemed to rise slowly below the sea surface. At this time, many pirates who were watching the live broadcast could not help but frown. What the hell is Morgans doing? Is he crazy? Everyone in the Dimension Retrograde has disappeared, why doesn't this waste Morgans shut down the live broadcast? 151 Retrograde, Dive Mode. Morgans is such a complete piece of shit, what else does he want? Just when everyone was about to continue to scold Morgans, a half-angel and half-demon statue suddenly appeared above the sea. The demon on the left is wearing a black robe, with red light shining in his eyes, and a sharp horn on his head. And the angel on the right is wearing a white gauze, with half-white wings, looks very holy, clean. Then, when the half-demon half-angel statue began to rise slowly, all the business of the retrograde also appeared directly in the eyes of everyone. At the same time, people in the live broadcast also saw the intact figure of Dean Riding appearing on the deck. Of course, the Black Dragon and Tushan Yaya, who had just blocked the last one, were seriously injured at this moment. However, even so, the Black Dragon Akunologia still showed an extremely disdainful smile towards the live phone bug. An attack of this magnitude will never kill me, and sooner or later we will all come to the holy land of Mariajoy again. Tushan Yaya on the side also said in a cold voice, when we come next time, it's time to completely destroy this place. As for the people living on the retrograde, they looked at the live phone bug coldly. At this time, Dean Riding said with the same cold expression, Spandine, I will settle this account with you sooner or later. World government, we retrograde people will come to the Holy Land Mariajoy again sooner or later, the next time the grievances between us will not be settled so quickly. After finishing speaking, Dean Riding turned around directly, and said loudly, retrograde, diving mode. Then the half-angel, half-demon statue on the retrograde quickly began to emit a large amount of red smoke. A large amount of red smoke directly completely enveloped the entire ship. Then, under the extremely horrified gazes of the crowd, the retrograde directly sank to the bottom of the sea, completely disappearing from the gazes of the crowd. On the sea, there are only ripples left in circles. At this time, Morgan's body was completely paralyzed on a small island, but his face was full of satisfaction. It's perfect, this time it's finally perfect, it seems that no one can stop us from moving forward. Our news agency will be the real mouthpiece of the world. Morgans can even predict that after completing this live broadcast, their news agency will enter a stage of rapid development. Advertisement. But at this moment, the many big pirates who saw this scene completely through the live broadcast have gone completely crazy. Many pirates on the sea began to cheer wildly. Great, the retrograde men didn't die, they didn't die at the hands of Uranus. And didn't that Dean Riding guy say that? They're going to come back sooner or later. Sure enough, they are worthy of being the famous dimensional rebels, these guys' lives are really too hard. It seems that this sea is becoming more and more interesting. I don't know what kind of things Dean Riding and his group will do. People from the world government, their faces are almost swollen, especially that idiot Spandane, I want to see what he will do next. In the holy land of Mariajoy, Spanda inside the palace is full of sluggishness. 0 for flowers. What? How could he be all right? How could they be alive? Hasn't Uranus's attack just now completely enveloped them? Why are these guys still alive? What the hell is going on here? It's over, it's not easy to explain to the adults now. Spandane's face quickly became very ugly. You must know that the right to use Uranus this time was not in his hands, but she obstinately fought for this opportunity to directly attack. 0. Originally thought that everyone who was a dimensional retrograde would die completely in his hands. In this way, the position in his hands would have an opportunity to climb up again. However, at this time, Spandane believed that the certainty of victory had changed accordingly at the last moment. Although this is because the guys of Dimension Retrograde are too peculiar, it is because his competitors don't think so. How could his competition only do everything possible to pin all the scapegoats on his head? In this way, Spandane's plan to continue climbing has been completely broken. In the depths of the palace, all the members of the 5 elders at this moment were placed in the ward. There was a strong look of horror on the face of the bald old man who couldn't hide it at all. Has Dean Riding and their strength reached this level? Not even Uranus can wipe them out completely. Let these guys live this time and leave here. In the future, they don't know what kind of storms and waves they will cause. 152 Everything remains the same, the decision of the 5 elders. The scarred old man on the side also looked complicated, and said slowly, it seems that this time, our world government has a very terrifying and unpredictable enemy. The bearded old man sighed slightly, and said, it seems that we will have some fun next time. If we can't find a way to completely deal with these guys, things will become more and more difficult. The curly-haired old man also nodded tightly. In the previous battles, they basically all suffered crushing defeats. Those who have fought against the Dimension Rebels are the most qualified to evaluate how terrible, June 20th, those guys are. In the end, the bald old man said, let's try one last time. If we still can't completely get rid of this group of dimensional retrogrades, we may have to ask the adults for help. Hearing this, the atmosphere in the entire ward immediately became very dull. They all completely understood what the bald old man meant. They are not the highest power holders in the world government, there are many people above them. And those people are the real background of world government. At this moment, although the live broadcast has completely come to an end, the major pirate groups and forces above the sea have been completely stunned. Locke's pirates fleet. At this moment, Locke stood there blankly, unable to believe the scene in front of him at all. Dean Riding and they survived Uranus's exploits, how the hell did they do it all? Could it be that their strength has already reached this level? Locke thought of the scene of Uranus attacking, and couldn't help trembling in his heart. Because even if he was in an extremely sudden situation, he couldn't defend against this level of attack at all. Even if he was lucky enough to defend himself, he might be seriously injured. After all, Uranus is one of the 3 ancient weapons in myths and legends, and it is a weapon that can be used to destroy the entire world. And personal strength is very difficult to stop this kind of weapon. But basically, a corresponding consensus has been formed on the sea. If Uranus needs to launch an attack, there is a lot of preparation work in the early stage. Therefore, Uranus could not simply be moved, and join one of the causes of battle. Advertisement. And because of this, the shocked look on Locke's face will support that it cannot be suppressed. The same goes for the regional members of the Locke's pirates. The famous Captain John couldn't help but sigh with emotion. It seems that we all underestimated this guy Dean Riding and his group of monsters. We didn't expect that at the last moment, they survived from a desperate situation. It seems that these guys are hiding a lot of secrets. The Black Dragon Akunologia and others have already demonstrated powerful destructive power. But in the follow-up, under the attack of Uranus, he survived directly. You must know that at this time, their respective bounties are basically 500 million Baileys. Logically speaking, it is impossible for them to survive the attack of Uranus. You must know that even a person with a bounty of 1 billion Baileys may not be able to do all of this. 0. If Uranus could be blocked so easily, then he wouldn't be called one of the 3 ancient weapons that could destroy the world. Silver Axe, who was carrying a huge axe on his back, had a flash of joy in his eyes, and said directly, "It seems that we will have a group of very good sparring opponents next. I just hope they can hold on for a while longer under my attack." Akoku, one of the core cadres of the Locks Pirates, also shook his fist slightly, his eyes full of longing. They can't wait to fight directly with the Dimension Rebels. At this time, Whitebeard and Golden Lion couldn't help laughing out loud. I knew that guy Dean Riding would never die on the sea easily, and sure enough we guessed it right. If that guy disappeared so easily, he probably wouldn't directly attack the world government. It seems that this time the dimensional retrograde will be completely famous in the whole C4.4. Charlotte Linlin, who heard this, also said with bright eyes, "Edward, next time you go to find Dean Riding, bring me with you. I have a very good idea and I want to discuss it with him." Hearing this, Whitebeard's face was slightly stiff, then he turned his head and said, "Why don't you forget it? I believe he won't be interested in your proposal." At this moment, Golden Lion Shiki couldn't help but shudder, and they immediately understood what Charlotte Linlin meant. Point 153 The next Locks Pirates. This guy definitely wants to marry Dean Riding and have a new offspring. Charlotte Linlin said nonchalantly, "Those guys from Dimension Retrograde are my targets, and I'm not that picky. In fact, what I admire the most is the Black Dragon Akunologia. If the power of the dragon veins flowing in her body can be passed on, an extremely powerful offspring will definitely be born." When he said this, Charlotte Linlin's eyes even began to sparkle with dazzling light. The powerful strength displayed by the Black Dragon Akunologia in the battle has already been directly targeted by her. Hearing the Longbred here also laughed and said, "That's right, Linlin, stick to your own ideas. If your bloodline can be directly fused with the Black Dragon's bloodline, the strength of the offspring that will be born will be very terrifying. And your good looks and appearance must be able to easily attract those guys." In all fairness, Charlotte Linlin's appearance at this time is still very good, coupled with Meowman's figure, it is enough to attract many men who don't know Charlotte Linlin's true nature. And Charlotte Linlin also likes to wear hotter clothes very much, attracting many pirates on the sea. Then at the last moment, she directly showed her powerful strength to crush those who tried to offend her. This is also one of Charlotte Linlin's little-known obsessions. And at this time, above the sea, Luogia is in the fleet of pirates. At this time, Luogia kept laughing loudly, and then said, "Interesting, it's really interesting. Dean Riding, I'm afraid he has already made a corresponding retreat plan. Otherwise, how could he just sit and wait for the coins at the scene?" In Luogia's mind, he kept thinking of Dean Riding's performance when he faced Uranus, so his guess about him became more certain. Jabba on the side couldn't help but said, "But at the last moment, how did they escape from the Holy Land Mariajoy? Is it true that the giant Nine-Tails Fox blocked all the attacks? Did everyone just run away?" Pluton Rayleigh directly shook his head and said, "It shouldn't be like this. Didn't the last two Shan Yaya also succeed and return to the retrograde, so the last moment must have happened, something we don't even know about." Advertisement. Bullet curled his lips in disdain, and said, "Why do you care so much? As long as they escape the scene successfully in the end." Quote. "Besides, as long as those guys continue to live, we can continue to challenge them, which is the best result." For Bullet, he was very eager to challenge the people on the retrograde. "I thought that after the appearance of Uranus, everything was completely doomed. But now it seems that his challenge can start again." Naval Headquarters Base, Marine Marshal Budinger and many Marines have fallen completely silent at this moment. The atmosphere in the entire conference room became very stiff and frozen. After a while, Marine Marshal Bounier sighed slightly, and then said, "I'm playing. Now, people from the world government personally sent away an opponent with unlimited potential. At this time, the dimensional rebels have already demonstrated their formidable strength. If they are given enough time to grow, Bounier can't imagine that the strength of these guys will expand to that extent." At this time, Marine Admiral Kong said slowly, "Perhaps in the future, our marine battle strategy also needs to be briefly adjusted. We must treat resource retrogrades as extremely dangerous opponents." The rest of the Marine Vice Admirals present also nodded their approval. "As long as we can seize the opportunity, we must kill everyone in the dimension retrograde. 077. These guys will definitely become our confidants in the future, we can't give them time to continue to grow." After watching the Battle of Dimensional Retrograde and others, many Marine generals also fully understood how powerful the pomegranates are. And under the control of Marshal Bounier of Marine, the entire dimension of retrogrades has completely become one of Marine's #1 enemies. Bounier said faintly, "I even think that this group of dimension retrogrades may become the next Locks Pirates in the future." Hearing this, even several Marine Vice Admirals present were completely stunned. Sengoku and Garp looked at each other, and both saw the confusion in each other's eyes. You know, at this time, the Locks Pirates have already become the most powerful pirates on the sea. And this matter has already been unanimously approved by many pirates above the sea. Point 154 The latest reward order. Crane Vice Admiral hesitated a little and then said, "Before the group of dimension retrogrades grows up, although this possibility is great, it may not necessarily come true. We just need to pay attention to them strategically. I don't think they have reached the threat level of the Locks Pirates. At this time, Crane Vice Admiral has already shown great potential in the Marine Group by virtue of his resourcefulness. Therefore, after Crane Vice Admiral spoke, he was still recognized by many Marine generals. Then, Marine Marshal Bounier said slowly, there is indeed a certain truth. But those guys from Dimension Retrograde are not very old now, how far will they grow in the future? None of us can make a judgment. In order to better suppress the growth space of these guys, let's redo their bounties. At this time, it was unanimously approved by everyone present. At the headquarters of the news agency, Morgans looked at the latest news from Marine, and couldn't help muttering, are there going to be another round of bounties? These Marines are really idle all day, so what if they increase the amount of these bounties from time to time? I don't see how many pirates they have caught. It's really a group of guys who don't know the so-called. Don't they know that in the perception of the outside world, this kind of bounty has undergone a fundamental change? At the beginning, Marine just wanted to suppress the growth space of pirates through this kind of bounty. But later, many pirates have regarded the amount of bounty offered as the best judgment of their status above the sea. And this point has even formed a consensus in the hearts of many pirates. If the bounty does not exceed 100 million Baileys, it is definitely not a real big pirate above the sea. Those whose bounties do not reach 100 million Baileys are not worthy of forming a real pirate group. When Morgans climbed directly to the middle of the bounty order, a look of astonishment soon appeared on his face. What? How could this guy's bounty? Then, Morgans frantically flipped through the reward orders below, and then saw the amounts that shocked him one by one. Morgans froze in place for a moment. Then he quickly came back to his senses and dealt with it quickly. Start up all the equipment in all factories, and print and issue all reward orders with maximum horsepower. Especially regarding the reward orders for the dimensional retrograde, we must ensure that the amount of these reward orders is sufficient. Distribute these bounties with maximum force. Then, Morgan's many factories quickly sprang into action. Advertisement. The latest reward orders of Dimension Retrograde and others also began to be printed frantically. You must know that once the latest status of the reward order is refreshed, then basically every pirate will have a copy. Because this is the best opportunity for them to understand the strength of the newly rising pirates. And these reward orders are basically distributed by the news birds of the news agency. Regardless of whether they are weak or powerful pirates, they will pay corresponding rewards when they obtain the reward order. Because as long as they take tough measures to obtain the reward order, then this person's appearance will be directly recorded by Newsbird. From then on, no news bird will arrive in the sea where this person exists. And this is tantamount to completely blocking the way for this person to know the latest situation of the outside world. What's more, the pricing amount of each reward order is extremely appropriate, even ordinary people can buy reward orders at will. Therefore, every time Morgans can get a huge amount of money by selling a large number of reward orders. So after Morgan saw the latest dimensional order, he became crazily excited. Because the sales figure of the reward order is also an extremely important indicator for him. Every time a reward order is sold, for the news agency, it means that part of the funds have begun to return. Moreover, the resources consumed to issue the reward order are actually very small. But the funds that can be harvested because of this are indeed huge. The payment is small and the income is high. Therefore, the reward order has already become a major source and way for news agencies to obtain funds. Good, and accompanied by a large number of news birds crazily pouring out to the outside world. Soon, the latest reward order of the Dimensional Rebels spread directly all over the world. On the island of Dora Vega, Dean Riding is on the counter, concentrating on making a glass of rum. But at this moment, the bar was already overcrowded. At this moment, I saw a reckless pirate walking in with a large stack of reward orders. Master Dean Riding, the latest reward order for your Dimensional Rebels has come out, this time is really a qualitative leap. When hearing this, Dean Riding didn't look up, he was still making rum. 155 Birth of the Great Pirate. On the other hand, the Black Dragon Akunologia took the stack of reward orders from the pirate with a cold expression. And at this time, all the pirates in the entire bar set their sights on the hands of the Black Dragon Akunologia. Everyone knows that when the last incident is over, the bounties of all members of the retrograde dimension will definitely change. And everyone has already made several guesses about the amount of the bounty, and now is the time to reveal the answer. The eyes of many people in the entire tavern are full of longing, wishing to directly snatch the reward order from the hands of the Black Dragon Akunologia. The Black Dragon Akunologia just glanced at everyone this year, and then began to release the bounties in front of him one by one. Dean Riding, the captain of Dimensional Retrograde, has a bounty of 1,030,000,000 Baileys. When they heard this, the faces of all the people present were full of astonishment. You must know that at 117 before this, Dean Riding's bounty was 530 million Baileys, and the overall amount was directly paid out twice. And at this time, many pirates in the tavern started to go crazy. Sure enough, he is worthy of being the captain of the Dimensional Retrograde. May the bounty arrow directly reach more than 1 billion Baileys. The person who can own this bounty is basically a famous big pirate on the sea. It seems that the world government and Marine should have regarded Dean Riding as a real confidant. It's just a battle, which directly doubles the amount of bounty offered. It really deserves to be the head of the Dimension Retrograde. At this time, Dean Riding, when he heard the corresponding bounty, had a look of helplessness on his face. Just a billion dubels, but if you put it in perspective, baby C might be appropriate too. You must know that Dean Riding stopped one of the five elders' members head-on on the battlefield, and successfully restrained the strong man with wood-style ninjutsu. But even so, perhaps because Dean Riding and one of the members of the five elders stalemate for too long in the first half of the battle, and did not show a devastating momentum on the battlefield. Moreover, Dean Riding did not show all his fighting power when facing the five elders members. Therefore, it is normal for the world government to offer a bounty of 1,030,000,000 Baileys. At least this figure is also a huge leap for the current Dean Riding. Advertisement. To Shan Yaya, a bounty of 1.28 billion Baileys is offered. When hearing this, everyone in the entire tavern fell silent. Boom. Then I saw a woman with a graceful figure pushed open the door of the tavern and walked in. It was Tu Shan Yaya who had just returned. Tu Shan Yaya was wearing a set of red plush cloak, coupled with Meowman's figure and beautiful appearance. It immediately attracted the attention of many people. However, this time, the eyes of many men looking at Tu Shan Yaya were full of fear and admiration. Tu Shan Yaya frowned slightly, and then muttered, "This group of guys, why are you acting so weird today?" When Tu Shan Yaya came to the bar, she happened to see her brand new bounty, and a satisfied smile appeared on her face. Is my bounty higher than Dean Riding's? That's a pretty good sign. And in fact, the level of bounty does reflect the level of corresponding strength. At this time, Dean Riding can't possibly be Tu Shan Yaya's opponent in terms of strength. It's just that Dean Riding is also constantly inheriting the corresponding strength from Tu Shan Yaya and the rest of the team. When Dean Riding inherits everyone's strength, his own fighting power will reach a new peak. At that point, there's no way any of the players will be a match for Dean Riding. Many of the players, including Tu Hu, are the best in their respective worlds, so their respective strengths are still very strong. And Tu Shan Yaya's bounty directly hit 1.28 billion, which is not surprising. After all, Tu Shan Yaya directly displayed the form of a nine-tails fox during the battle, and it was a nine-tails fox like a hill. After Tu Shan Yaya used the astronomical phenomena to display her digitally enlarged real body, she quickly formed a crushing trend on the battlefield. If it weren't for the Uranus's long-prepared attack at that time, which directly formed a corresponding suppression effect on Tu Shan Yaya and others, Tu Shan Yaya, who was in a state of law, heaven and earth, would definitely be able to easily crush the entire Holy Land, Mariajoy's numerous defensive forces. At this time, Tu Shan Yaya said with some depression, "If you give me enough time to prepare, it is impossible for the so-called Uranus to store power for such a long time. 156 Adapting to world density. With my speed, I can absolutely destroy him before it launches an attack. What's more, if it's not because my real body hasn't fully adapted to the air density and energy conversion method here, even if Uranus is given more time to prepare, it can't hurt me." When she was in the Holy Land Mariajoy, at the last moment, Tu Shan Yaya directly used the ability of Fatianxiangdi. Completely withstood the attack of Uranus. Then, after a huge impact, Tu Shan Yaya directly protected Dean Riding and others to the surface of the sea, and was successfully picked up by the retrograde. Because of this, of course Dean Riding finally appeared on the surface of the sea safely. Hearing this, Dean Riding said with a smile, "You are all the same, give you about a year, and you should be able to fully adapt to the situation here." Although it is said that all the strength of Tu Shan Yaya and others has been directly given to them in the system. But because the world of pirates is very different from the world they originally lived in. No matter in terms of gravitational force, air density or even energy conversion, there is a big difference. Also because of this, if Tu Shan Yaya and the others want to exert their full strength, they must be given enough time to complete the corresponding transformation of all the energy in the body. In other words, in the last holy place Mariajoy, what Tu Shan Yaya came to was not their real action at all. And this is also the reason why everyone was almost driven to a desperate situation by the Holy Land Mariajoy last time as a dimensional retrograde. The Black Dragon Akunologia on the side also nodded slightly, and said, "Who says it's not? If I can also prepare for an attack at a fixed location for a period of time like Uranus. I can use the dragon-slaying magic to completely destroy the entire island of the Holy Land Mariajoy." At this time, Dean Riding said helplessly, "The battle with the Holy Land is over. In the near future, I don't want to trouble them anymore. After all, the Holy Land of Mariajoy probably doesn't have many strong men who can let us fight one by one. Our next combat target is on the entire vast sea. In today's sea, there are many big pirates haunting, and these big pirates are basically at their peak state. If Dean Riding and others want to further improve their combat power, or even adjust their own adaptability to combat power, they can continue to fight against more powerful big pirates." Advertisement. Whether it is the Lox pirates, the Luogia pirates, or even the many strong men from naval headquarters, all these people can serve as training targets to some extent for the members of the Resource Retrograde. Ace Kano, Ha bounty 950 million Pele. 11. When Ace Kano's bounty appeared, everyone present was also exclaimed. You know, although this bounty is not as good as Dean Riding and Tu Shan Yaya, it is indeed a very top-notch existence in the entire sea. There are actually very few people whose bounties can directly exceed billions at every turn. 0 for Flowers 0. A pirate whose bounty can exceed 500 million is basically already above the sea, and can be called a big pirate. And in today's era, such big pirates basically all exist in the Lox pirates and other major pirates. And the Dimension Retrograde itself has no way to compare with these pirates. Even if today's dimensional retrogrades take the feat of attacking the Holy Land of Mariajoy, they have only just embarked on the road of becoming a great pirate. 0. In the impression of the whole world, what the guys in the Locks pirates like to do most all day long is to break through kingdoms one after another, and slaughter all the life forms in kingdoms after kingdoms. And the reason why a few big pirates like the Locks pirates can gain fame in the sea is because they put down evil deeds that many people can't even imagine. It is definitely a very special exception that the Luogia pirate group exists on the sea. Under such circumstances, Ace Kano at this time was frowning slightly. It was in the evening at the moment, so Ace Kano's body didn't look as muscular as in the live broadcast. After all, his physical condition was affected by the rising and falling sunlight. Ace Kano in the evening was basically in the weakest state. Anyway, I also directly defeated a member of the 5 elders, but the bounty given to me is only 950 million Bailey. Aren't those guys from the world government a little too contemptuous? 157 dissatisfied Ace Kano. Dean writing, I think it's time for us to try again at the Holy Land Mariajoy. Ace Kano never expected that his bounty would be directly lower than 1 billion Baileys. After all, judging from the situation on the battlefield at that time, the fighting power he displayed was already strong enough. At this time, even the faces of many pirates in the tavern were full of astonishment. Why is Ace Kano's bounty so low? There is no corresponding reason at all. After all, Ace Kano is called the Son of the Sun. Could it be said that the bounty offered to the person who broke out with such a strong combat power on June 17 is not worthy of directly breaking through 1 billion Baileys? Dean writing on the side also shook his head in doubt, and said, sometimes I really don't understand how the world government negotiates these bounties. The Black Dragon Akuno Nokia continued to read the next person's bounty with a calm expression. Thor, there is a bounty of 180 million Baileys. Hearing this, Dean writing couldn't help laughing, and said, it seems that the world government doesn't take Thor seriously at all. After all, Thor did not show her own true power under the gaze of everyone in the world, and Thor did not directly join the fierce battle in the Holy Land of Mariajoy. At this time, Tower was wearing a maid outfit with her mouth puffed out. Although she was a little unhappy, she finally muttered directly, so what if they look down on me? Anyway, I don't like fighting very much. Just take care of yourself. My lord, what do you want to eat tonight? I have recently researched some very special new dishes, do you want to try them tonight? Dean writing, who lives here, showed a satisfied look on his face, and said at the beginning, no problem, as long as it is the food made by Tonger, it should not disappoint us. Hearing this moment, Thor immediately put all the unhappiness behind him, with a sweet smile on his face. Senju Hashirama offers a bounty of 1,140 million Baileys. Hearing this, Senju Hashirama frowned slightly, and said directly, as the bounty lower than that of 2 Shanyaya. But it's understandable. Advertisement. Even Dean writing on the side smiled and said, this situation should be normal. After all, the last move we used at the time, Rashomon, did not fully demonstrate its own powerful defense. So, I'm afraid the world government directly lowered your bounty based on this point. Coupled with 2 Shanyaya's real body in the last scene, it was too shocking. Senju Hashirama could only nod his head slightly, and said calmly, actually, it doesn't matter, after all, it won't be long before the rewards of all the dimensional retrogrades should be refreshed again. Senju Hashirama seemed to say these words very plainly, but it made everyone in the entire tavern quiet down. In the eyes of many pirates at the scene, a rich and fiery color bloomed. Sure enough, he is worthy of being a dimensional retrograde, and only these monsters dare to say such arrogant words. But most importantly, I seem to believe that they can do it all. 0 degrees. After the dimensional rebels attack the Holy Land Mariajoy, they can return safely again and refresh their existing bounty amount. What is it? The Black Dragon Akunologia was flipping through the bounty, but soon, his expression changed slightly, and he saw his own bounty. Then, the Black Dragon directly skipped the reward order, and continued to read the rewards of the rest of the people. Ulquiorra Cipher, 1,460 million square feet. When hearing this, the Chunin in the tavern couldn't help but burst into exclamations. Master Ulquiorra Cipher's bounty is about to exceed 1.5 billion Baileys. A bounty of this level can even occupy a certain position in the Locks Pirates. That's right, among the Locks Pirates, only the real core members have a bounty of 1.5 billion Baileys. Master Ulquiorra Cipher is very powerful, and after showing the second fighting state at that time, he easily directly suppressed the members of the 5 elders. 2.9 inches, so it's normal for your lord to have such a bounty. Even Dean writing on the side nodded slightly, and said directly, it's normal for Ulquiorra Cipher's bounty to reach this figure. After all, the power of the second stage return to Blade state can be seen by anyone with a discerning eye. Come out. Ulquiorra Cipher on the side said calmly, if it's not because our opponent is too weak. Secondly, the true strength of the form can definitely bloom more dazzlingly in this world. 158 The power of dragon veins is the greatest threat. After Ulquiorra Cipher showed his second form, all aspects of his own data were able to increase crazily. He thought he would be able to usher in a hearty battle, but he didn't expect that the members of the 5 elders were not worth mentioning in front of his second form. You must know that at this time Ulquiorra Cipher did not even directly exert his full strength. After all, Ulquiorra Cipher, like everyone else, still needs at least half a year to allow his originally powerful body to fully adapt to the subtle environmental differences in all aspects here. After the strength reaches a certain level, even if there is a slight difference in the environment, it will affect the performance of one's combat power. Of course, the environment here refers to the general environment, and refers to the corresponding results caused by the differences between the entire pirate world and their original world. On another sea area, 10 people saw the Lox pirates at this time, and everyone was also looking through the reward orders of the retrograde dimensions. The Black Dragon Akunologia is offering a bounty of 1.56 billion Baileys. When the corresponding voice directly appeared in the field, everyone in the entire Lox pirates fell into silence. Everyone in the Lox pirates immediately exclaimed directly. The Black Dragon Akunologia's bounty has directly exceeded 1.5 billion Baileys. It seems that the world government really treats him as a serious problem. And this guy's bounty is the highest among all the dimensional retrogrades. Sure enough, the dragon race will always be valued more by humans. The strength of the Black Dragon Akunologia is too strong. Even though we watched the battle through the live broadcast, I can still feel the strong dragon power from the screen. When this point was mentioned, Shunin couldn't help flashing the look of fear in the eyes of many ordinary members of the Lox pirates. The black long dragon that covered the sky and the sun completely shocked their hearts the first time they appeared. And the powerful strength displayed by the Black Dragon Akunologia in the follow-up has also been thoroughly imprinted in their hearts. And at this time, Lox took a deep breath, and then, the entire venue immediately became silent. All eyes are on Lox. Lox is the core point that this pirate group can continue to maintain, and it is also the only reason why this pirate group can continue to exist. Advertisement. Lox's own strength can easily crush anyone here, and the entire sea recognizes that this guy has the ability to destroy the world. And everyone above the sea has already put Lox on par with Ancient Weapon. Edward, arrange for me to meet with Dean Riding as soon as possible. I want to have a good discussion with him about the future of the dimensional retrograde. Hearing this, Whitebeard had a surprised look on his face, and then nodded slightly, but his heart was filled with mixed feelings. Originally, Lox was probably already prepared to use a strong attitude to directly pressure Dean Riding to make a choice. I didn't expect that after the reward order appeared, he would change his attitude directly. What's going on? In fact, many core members of the Lox pirates present were also deeply surprised. Everyone has a deep understanding of Lox's domineering attitude. Even in the face of core cadres like them, Lox also doesn't pay attention to the slightest sympathy. Originally, everyone had already prepared the idea that Lox would personally deal with the dimensional retrograde crowd. However, I didn't expect Lox to directly use the word business strategy this time. Clearly, the current Lox have no animosity towards Dean Riding. The eyes of Captain John on the side rolled slightly, and he basically guessed the reason for the sudden change in Lox's attitude in his heart. Perhaps at this time Loss 84 has begun to really care about D. Ruiden's ability. After all, not all young men can directly gather so many strong people into the same pirate group, and there is no so-called contradiction between them. On the battlefield of the previous Holy Land Mariajoy, at the final moment of retreat, the Black Dragon Akunologia and Tushin Yaya were all ready to sacrifice themselves and let the crowd retreat successfully. Moreover, the Black Dragon was the first to act accordingly, and it was precisely because this scene was extremely shocking that the world government also paid more attention to the Black Dragon Akunologia. In today's sea, there are indeed a lot of pirates, and there are also a lot of big pirates. And many big pirates are more selfish, they only want to make themselves stronger, and never consider the future development path of the pirate group they belong to. Even the current status of the Lox pirates is the same. 159 First occurrence. All core cadres have their own ideas, they just use the name of the Lox pirates to make themselves stronger, and use this huge name to achieve their respective goals. Therefore, Lox sees some possibility in Dean Riding. That is, if Dean Riding can join the Lox pirates, perhaps the extremely chaotic internal situation of the Lox pirates will definitely change. So at this time, Lox pays more attention to Dean Riding's ability to lead his subordinates, rather than his own performance, which is only the ability to offer a bounty of 1 billion Baileys. Of course, Dean Riding's many potential men are also a part that Lox values very much. And the Luogia pirates on the other side. At this moment, many members are also arguing about the newly released bounty for the Dimension Retrograde. At this moment, Luogia had a look of excitement flashing on his face, and said, I really didn't misread Dean Riding and the others, they are indeed existences with unlimited potential. After this battle ended, their bounties were doubled several times. At this time, Jabba couldn't help laughing and said, but the most important question is, have you found that in the entire Dimension Retrograde, except for the maid named Thor and the Retrograde as a ship besides, the one with the lowest bounty is Dean Riding as the captain? This thing is really interesting. Hearing this, the Vice Captain Pluton Rayleigh on the side opened his mouth in the same size and said, that's right, maybe this is the uniqueness of the Dimension Retrograde. And everyone in the Luogia pirates couldn't help laughing. Because under normal circumstances, among the entire pirate group, the strongest is definitely the captain, and the captain is definitely the person with the highest bounty. Whether it's the Lox pirates or the Luogia pirates, it's all like this. Because in today's sea, if there is no corresponding strength, it is difficult to suppress some rebellious subordinates. Therefore, the captain's lack of strength is simply unjustifiable. But in today's situation, the dimensional retrograde has become the only exception. At this time, Bullet also couldn't help laughing and said, this is why I didn't take Dean Riding as a challenge target. I hope to challenge the Black Dragon Akunologia and other powerhouses. For Dean Riding, let's wait until he becomes stronger in the future. Advertisement. Hearing this, Pluton Rayleigh nodded slowly and said, I have to say, Dean Rui is still growing very fast. Who would have thought that in such a short period of time, that guy Dean Riding has led many of his subordinates to grow to this point? You know, before this, their bounties were basically around 300 million Baileys. Many members at the scene were also a little emotional. The red-haired Shanks and the clown Buggy in the corner of the ship's deck had expressions of envy and expectation on their faces. Buggy couldn't help waving his right fist and said, "Sooner or later, I will be like that guy Dean Riding and make myself stronger." Shanks, do you believe I can do that one? Shanks also has his own thoughts, and when he heard this, he could only nod perfunctorily. But at this time, the clown Buggy said very dissatisfied, "Shanks, you are so annoying, every time I talk to you seriously, you always have to be distracted. I don't believe you don't want to be as powerful as Dean Riding." Quote. At this time, Shanks was just laughing. What no one knows is that deep down, Shanks wants to make the world more peaceful. Shanks also wants to become stronger, but he wants to end this chaotic era instead of becoming a so-called real big pirate and continue to make this era even more chaotic. And Shanks himself is well aware that his thoughts are difficult to prevail in today's world, so he never confides his true thoughts to anyone. Otherwise, even the many core cadres in the Luogia pirate group, Lilis, may not be able to accommodate him as a trainee crew member. At this moment, a dull voice suddenly sounded from the forward position of the deck. "Shanks, Buggy, you two come here quickly." The faces of Shanks and Buggy who heard this became very serious at the same time, and then hurriedly trot to the front of the deck. The person who spoke just now was Luogia. At this time, Luogia looked at the two little guys in front of him with a smile, and said, "You two little guys have become stronger recently." As he spoke, Luogia gently rubbed the heads of the clown Buggy and Shanks. 160 The foundation of the future, the chaotic island. Then Luogia laughed and said, "Only people like you are the true foundation and future direction of our Locks pirates. You must become stronger, just like those guys in the dimension retrograde, make yourself stronger in battle after battle. You know what? In fact, before this, Dean Riding's reputation wasn't even as good as yours." Of course, Luogia is just using Dean Riding to motivate the clown Buggy. In fact, Dean Riding's name has already penetrated into the hearts of many people with the reputation of opening a tavern and the reputation of fine wine. But if you want to strictly speaking, Dean Riding did not have the so-called reputation above the sea when he first started. At this time, the red-haired Shanks and the clown Buggy have already gained a certain reputation as members of the Locks Pirates. Although both of them are 940 trainee crew members, not everyone has the corresponding qualifications to join the Luogia Pirates to train themselves. Not to mention that Luogia often likes to teach the Shanks by his side, carefully teaching and encouraging them. And Luogia's careful teaching and encouragement also completely changed the inner thoughts of the clown, Buggy and Shanks. If the clowns Buggy and Shanks had joined the Locks Pirates directly, they would have died on the endless battlefield by now. There is an essential difference between the Locks Pirates and the Luogia Pirates. One is constantly expanding outwards, the other is constantly increasing its strength in various ways on the sea, rather than just blindly kill. Meanwhile, the island of Dora Vega. The news that all the dimension retrogrades are staying here has already spread. Although the world government and Marine also received corresponding news, they didn't have any idea of attacking the island at all. Because the dimensional retrograde guy directly defeated the members of Five Elders with his own strength, and every member of Five Elders is higher than Marine Admiral in strength level. This is enough to prove that the dimension retrograde guys are a group of very terrifying big pirates. Therefore, before they are absolutely sure, the world government and Marine will never make a move easily. Advertisement. Moreover, the conditions for Uranus to be used are also very harsh, and it is impossible for the world government to directly transport it to the corresponding sea area to deal a devastating blow to the island of Dora Vega. It is precisely because of this that many people know that Dora Vega Island is a very safe place, and people from the Marine and world government will not go there easily. Because of this, more and more pirates began to head to this island. The first goal of many pirates is to directly join the dimensional retrograde. After all, every member of the dimensional retrograde is an unattainable existence for them. They are eager to accept the protection of such a strong man, and follow such a strong man to take risks to enhance their own strength. However, Dean Riding would directly refuse anyone to join each time, because if Dean Riding wants to completely control the entire dimension retrograde, then he must ensure that every member inside will not betray him. And with the existence of the system, Dean Riding doesn't need to worry that the dimension retrograde will directly betray him. But if it is a random selection, if some people with great potential above the sea join, such things as betrayal may be unavoidable. After all, Dean Riding looked at it from the perspective of God, and it seems that a traitor played an extremely important role in the downfall of many great pirate groups. It is precisely because of this that many pirates think that the conditions for joining the dimension retrograde are very harsh, but they are unwilling to give up, so they can only stay on this island. And Dean Riding also began to organize manual aging to produce fine wine in batches. The crazy appearance of a large amount of fine wine in the entire Doravi family island has completely stimulated many pirates. Gradually, many pirates directly regarded this island as their temporary settlement, because the various fine wines inside had completely conquered them. The source of wealth of many pirates is very fast, they only obtain the corresponding wealth through plunder. At this time, inside the tavern, Tushan Yaya frowned and said, "Dean Riding, the situation on this island has become more and more chaotic recently, and more pirates have poured in here directly." Quote. And the quality of those guys is uneven, and they often start troubles directly after getting drunk. Do you want to directly form a security team for this island to prevent these accidents from happening? After all, there are still many civilians living here. Dean Riding frowned slightly, and said, has someone started accidentally killing civilians? Point 161 Feed the unfamiliar white-eyed wolf. Tushan Yaya shook her head slightly, and said, this kind of situation didn't happen. After all, they were warned by us when they entered the island. Dean Riding also knew that after many pirates entered the island, they would definitely make troubles like crazy, so he had clearly told everyone that they must not harm any ordinary people on the island. Otherwise, the pirate will be severely punished by the Dimension Retrograde. Relying on the powerful strength of the Dimension Retrograde, many pirates are directly shocked, and even if there are many pirates, they will definitely not target the civilians here. However, Tushan Yaya frowned directly at this time, and said, but the number of pirates staying on this island is increasing, and the quality of these pirates is also constantly improving. If this continues, the number of conflicts among the pirates will continue to increase. Sooner or later, the battles between them will affect the many civilians living here. In fact, more and more civilians are willing to stay here because Dean Riding taught a lot of fine wine crafts to everyone. After many big pirates came here, they also began to be madly infatuated with these beautiful scenery, and they are not short of Bailey. Therefore, more and more civilians choose to stay here to make money. As a result, the island of Dora Vega has become more and more prosperous. Moreover, many people who open taverns here spontaneously handed over 30% of their income to the dimensional retrogrades. After a little hesitation, Dean Riding finally chose to accept the offerings from everyone. First of all, if there is no dimension and the retrograde is here, how can the many big pirates have a fair deal with these civilians? And just like what Tushan Yaya said, the people who voluntarily go against the road exist here, and they give timely warnings, so that many civilians can do business with peace of mind. However, even so, as the number of pirates continues to increase, sooner or later some small-scale turmoil will break out here. The reason for the outbreak of turmoil is simply that some unstable riot factors are inherently hidden in the blood of pirates. Hearing this, Dean Riding sighed slightly, and then said, it seems that the formation of a guard team is imminent. But the establishment of this guard also needs to be carefully considered. Advertisement. Dean Riding and others have already decided on the development route of the dimensional retrograde from the very beginning, so naturally they will not easily accept some ordinary people to join the ranks of dimensional retrograde. While Dean Riding was still hesitating, a big event happened suddenly among the Locks pirates on the other side. While many core cadres of the Locks pirates were discussing matters, a man from Charlotte Linlin's camp suddenly broke into it, and kept claiming that he wanted to form a team alone instead of accepting Charlotte Linlin's proposal. Lead. And this scene also made many members of the Locks pirates very interested. I saw Locks staring at the muscles in front of him with great interest. Kaido, who looked extremely strong, said directly, why don't you want to accept the leadership of Charlotte Linlin? Don't you think she is not strong enough? Leading you. Zero looking for flowers. Charlotte Linlin's strength is at the forefront of the entire Locks pirates, and this is recognized by many people. At this time, Kaido shook his head very seriously, and said, that's not the case, it's just that Charlotte and Linlin's concept of forming a team is fundamentally different from mine. I hope that my team can continue to pursue greater strength. Instead of forming a so-called family, form a so-called intimate relationship. When hearing this, Charlotte Linlin's face suddenly became very ugly. Oh. For a long time, Charlotte Linlin wanted to draw many powerful people into her camp, and during this time, Charlotte Linlin was also constantly trying to have offspring with more powerful people. It is precisely because of this that Charlotte and Linlin have many strong people. In fact, they already have great opinions. But because Charlotte and Linlin were too powerful, no one dared to put forward other ideas in person. But at this time Kaido didn't care about all this at all. Kaido can't accept that the person leading him is an ignorant person who always wants to give birth to more offspring. During this period of time, Kaido also became famous among the Locks pirates, because Kaido showed good combat effectiveness in many battles to annihilate the kingdom. Moreover, the black mace in Kaido's hands is beyond the reach of ordinary people in terms of length and weight. At this time, Charlotte Linlin even cursed on the spot. You unfamiliar white-eyed wolf, if you had no old lady, you would have died on the battlefield a long time ago. 162 Rules of Locks. Now you actually want to betray my old lady, you damn kid. And Kaido, who heard this, also said unwillingly to be outdone, I just want to have partners and fellow travelers in the future, not so-called family members. All family members are unreliable, even the descendants of oneself. The big family that Charlotte Linlin wants to form is fundamentally different from what Kaido has always wanted. What's more, Kaido's words made Charlotte even fall into a rage. I saw strands of tyrannical, May 47 inches aura appeared on the surface of Charlotte Linlin's body, the talent of the steel balloon was activated, and time became extremely heavy. Boy, what are you talking about? You were looking for your own death. Charlotte told Linlin, and slowly moved towards Kaido's direction. At this time, the regional cadres looked at Kaido with interest. After all, Kaido was not one of their subordinates, so they naturally didn't care too much. What's more, as the leaders of their respective teams, they don't want to see some of their subordinates suddenly stand up one day in the future and want to exist without them. Therefore, more core cadres are supporting Charlotte Linlin. At this time, Whitebeard frowned slightly, looked at Kaido in the field, and thought to himself, a guy who doesn't even believe his family. This guy is definitely a real cold-blooded person. Whitebeard also wants to build a real pirate group like family. Of course, what Whitebeard wants to do is to make many partners in the same industry become as close as family members through continuous fighting and experience. Therefore, there is still an essential difference between Whitebeard's ideas and Charlotte Linlin's. Whitebeard believes more in the role of what everyone has experienced together, while Charlotte, especially Linlin, believes in her own blood descendants. Just when Charlotte and Linlin were about to make a move, Locke suddenly laughed and said, "Okay, Linlin, this guy named Kaido looks quite interesting. It would be a pity if you were beaten to death on the spot like this." Hearing this, Charlotte Linlin could only stand aside indignantly, her eyes fixed on Kaido in front of her, wishing she could rush up and kill him. But now that Locke has spoken, Charlotte Linlin dare not act rashly at all. Advertisement. At this time, Locke stared at Kaido in front of him with great interest, and said directly, "Do you want to form your own team? Do you want to be like Charlotte Linlin and reach this level?" Kaido nodded without hesitation, then tightly held the mace in his hand, and said, "Yes, and I believe in my own strength. Give me a certain amount of time, I can definitely form a stronger team." Hearing Locke's here, a look of appreciation flashed in his eyes. Locke has always been relatively relaxed in the management of the pirates, allowing each of his core cadres to build their own team. But these teams must belong to the Locke's pirates. Locke has always believed that only when the various core cadres have corresponding interests, can they compete with each other when they conflict, and the entire pirate group can become stronger. 0. When Captain John and the others on the side heard this, their faces were full of surprise. Because the reason why they were able to rise back then is also the psychological state and process of Kaido now. They also obtained corresponding opportunities, and by making themselves stronger, they finally established their own teams. Of course, these teams still accept the leadership of Locke in name. After all, Locke is strong enough to suppress any of their core cadres. Then, Locke said quietly, "I can agree to your request, but you must also pass my test. Otherwise, if other people want to build their own team like you, where should we Locke's pirates go? And I also have to give Charlotte an account of this matter." As Locke said, he gave Captain John a wink. At this time, Captain John 1.6 came out slowly, with a weird smile on his face, and locked his eyes on Kaido in front of him. "Boy, you probably haven't heard of another unspoken rule of our Locke's pirates. If someone wants to form a team alone, then he must pass the test of at least one core cadre. This time, I will complete the corresponding test for you. But you have to be careful, I won't show mercy." As he spoke, Captain John pulled out 2 flintlock guns from his waist, his eyes full of anticipation. .163 Arrogant Kaido, the guy who deliberately seeks death. At this time, Kaido tightly held the black mace in his hand, and armament hockey completely covered the surface of the staggered mace in an instant. The black mace became thicker in an instant, and Kaido's eyes were full of determination, staring closely at Captain John in front of him. Seeing this scene, many core cadres also became very interested immediately, and began to carefully observe the upcoming battle. At this time, Charlotte Linlin looked at Kaido with disdain. Where can a person who almost died in the last battle to destroy the country hide? If I hadn't spoken out righteously at the critical moment, I'm afraid this kid would have died on the battlefield long ago. Charlotte Linlin is not optimistic about Kaido in front of her at all. If anyone could directly form their own Team 10 among the Locke's pirates, then the entire pirates would have been completely messed up. Therefore, according to the unspoken rules, this guy Kaido must persist for 10 minutes under the command of Captain John. And those who can persist for 10 minutes under Captain John, at least in terms of combat potential, are beyond doubt. Of course, Captain John will also release the water under appropriate circumstances, but first, the challenger must be able to obtain the approval of Captain John. Otherwise, Captain John's full firepower can completely defeat the challenger in the first place. And if Captain John judges that the so-called challenger is overreaching, it is very likely that he will kill the so-called challenger in the first place. At this time, many members of the Locke's pirates were also discussing the scene in front of them. Of course, more people are still mocking crazily. This guy who has not joined our Locke's pirates for a long time wants to form his own team, which is simply whimsical. It seems that this guy is no longer satisfied with being an ordinary crew member, he wants to become a core cadre. That depends on whether he has the fate. I think he will die at the hands of Captain John today. That's right, the last challenger was torn to pieces by Captain John in the first place. I think this kid can last at most a minute under Captain John's hands. On the battlefield, Kaido was holding a huge mace in his hand at this moment, and his eyes locked on Captain John in front of him. Advertisement. In an instant, all the muscles in Kaido's body tensed, and his expression became extremely ferocious. At this time, Kaido has already comprehended, heavy-colored hockey. The jet black armament hockey directly covers the surface of the mace and Kaido's whole body. Seeing this scene, the ordinary crew members who were taunting wildly around were suddenly silent. There was even a look of horror on the faces of many people. What the hell is this guy able to cover armament hockey all over his body? How the hell did he do it? Didn't he just join our pirate group, not long ago? Has he already cultivated armament hockey to this level? It's really unacceptable. This seemingly ordinary guy is already so strong. You must know that there are absolutely not many people who can comprehend armament hockey in the entire ocean. It should be known that armament hockey covers the workplace of offensive weapons, and can be directly immune to the elemental state of fruit-capable users. Therefore, the necessary way to become a strong man must be to learn armament hockey. Learning armament hockey is only a preliminary threshold, and it takes a lot of time to apply armament hockey to an extremely deep level. And there must be a corresponding talent in it. Just like the Marine Vice Admiral Zephyr, who has a very high reputation among Marines, the reason why his combat power is very strong is because he can gather a large amount of armament hockey on the surface of his fists. 343 This led Zephyr to use armament hockey to be able to know most of the fruit abilities, and then win the battle. At this moment, Kaido's understanding of armament hockey can even be compared to that of Marine Vice Admiral Zephyr, who has already had a corresponding reputation. Everyone in the Locks Pirates knows very well that Marine Vice Admiral Zephyr will definitely be one of the strong admirals in the future. And the admiral-level powerhouses already belong to the most powerful group in the entire ocean. At this time, Kaido also showed corresponding characteristics, so everyone in the field was a little surprised. Even Whitebeard couldn't help frowning, and said, I didn't expect that the combat effectiveness of this guy with a strange concept can still be on the stage. It seems that this guy will still show up in the future. I just hope that in the future there won't be too violent conflicts between the two of us. 164 Fresh Blood, Kaido's test begins. As long as Whitebeard thinks of Kaido's refusal to establish intimacy and family affection with his partners, he suddenly becomes a little irritable. The point of confrontation between Whitebeard and Kaido has already begun to brew at this time. The Golden Lion on the side looked at Kaido with great interest, and couldn't help but move to Whitebeard's side, and said cautiously, Edward, do you think this guy can pass this test? After pondering for a while, Whitebeard said, I'm not sure. This guy looks like a maze now. Whether he can pass depends on how much strength he can exert in the future. Seeing this, Golden Lion also spread his hands slightly, and said, at least the characteristics that this kid is displaying now are enough to make everyone interested. Whitebeard gestured slightly to those around him. Many core members of the Locks Pirates looked at Kaido with interest. Especially behind this, the core cadre member Silver Axe is carrying a huge silver axe. I saw that Silver Axe's eyes were full of appreciation, and the whole person seemed eager to try. Seeing Whitebeard here, he curled his lips slightly, and then said, this guy Silver Axe just can't wait to use the axe in his hand to measure Kaido's strength. This guy is a complete fighter, so I don't feel disgusted by his behavior. However, other core cadres of the Locks Pirates are also very interested in Kaido in front of them. If it weren't for Kaido's proposal to form his own team, they couldn't wait to absorb Kaido into their team. After all, the entire Locks Pirate group is divided into many small teams. In the process of every external expansion, each small team is free to fight. How many huge resources each core cadre can collect depends on how much record they can achieve at the bottom of the regiment. Therefore, having a strong person in the team is of great benefit to the whole. In a sense, every core cadre in the small team is already qualified to be a captain. But because of the strength of Locks, they follow Locks willingly. On the battlefield, Captain John slowly drew out a flintlock gun and aimed directly at Kaido in front of him. Boy, it seems that you are ready. Then, let me see how good you are. Just as the muzzle of the flintlock gun in Captain John's hand was aimed directly at Kaido, Kaido felt his body become a little stiff for an instant. Advertisement. At the same time, there is a warning sign deep in Kaido's heart, and there seems to be a subconscious in his heart constantly telling him that he will never be a match for the person in front of him if he flees the battlefield quickly. However, Kaido gritted his teeth fiercely at this time, and there was a hint of hostility in his eyes. This battle hasn't started yet, how can it end like this? Roar. Just then Kaido let out a roar, and holding a huge mace, he took the lead in attacking directly to the front. At this time, Captain John also had a flash of appreciation on his face. Because he had indeed locked Kaido directly with a powerful murderous aura just now. If Kaido can't even break through the blockade of his murderous spirit, then it is destined that he will not have much achievement in the future. Now that Kaido has overcome the corresponding psychological shadow, then, this battle can really continue. And many core cadres around obviously saw through this point, and all of them couldn't stop nodding. Quote. At this time, Kaido is completely qualified to accept the inspection of Captain John. Quote. I hope this kid can last a little longer, but I haven't seen a good seedling for a long time. This kid should be a good guy with only strength. Our Locks Pirates really need more fresh blood. You know, every time a new team is established, he can directly recruit a large number of pirates. These pirates will also nominally become members of the Locks Nuohao Pirates. And the Locks Pirates will continue to grow on a corresponding scale. Therefore, the development of each team is also a big event for the Locks Pirates. After all, when the team was first established, Locks also needed to sit on a certain tilt in terms of resources. And other teams will also give the new team certain resources in the early stage to some extent. Of course, this also depends on the preferences of core cadres. Thunder 8 trigrams. I saw Kaido moving quickly in the field, swiping the mace in his hand suddenly. It was because of the too fast movement. Zhang saw that 10 wisps of lightning were actually attached to the huge mace. The 165th Dimension Patrol Team, the problem is beginning to appear. At this time, Kaido's body completely turned into a huge afterimage. Boom. The huge mace made a sound of piercing through the air, and moved directly in the direction of Captain John. At this time, after Captain John felt the power of this attack, a bright smile appeared on his face. What a nice guy. It's just that this level of attack is just scratching an itch for me. Captain John directly raised the flintlock in his hand and gently pulled the trigger. Boom. Accompanied by a crisp sound, a large amount of bloody aura was directly condensed in the flintlock. In the next moment, a blood-colored trajectory appeared in the midair. A blood-red bullet hit the tip of the mace in Kaido's hand at an extremely fast speed. Clang! A crisp sound appeared, and the mace in Kaido's hand was forced to stay in midair. Captain John completely destroyed Kaido's powerful lead attack with just one move. Even Kaido at this time had a horrified look on his face. What? How is this possible? This guy's ability is so strong. Kaido couldn't even understand it. He has already thought about how strong the core members of the Locks pirates are, but no matter what, he never thought that his powerful first attack could not even stop a single bullet from Captain John. Live. At the same time, on the other side of the island of Dora Vega, the Dimension rebels gathered together, and at this moment, Dean Riding was standing at the bar, frowning tightly. Tushan Yaya said directly, Dean Riding, the situation on this island is becoming more and more tense. And our number is limited after all, so we can't properly manage the vicious incidents that happened in some remote locations. Advertisement. In this way, if the number of vicious incidents continues to increase, it will have a great impact on the reputation of our dimension retrogrades. After all, this island is the base of the dimensional retrograde. Therefore, everyone present hoped that the island would prosper forever. Senju Hashirama on the side said indifferently, the embankment of 1,000 miles collapsed in an ant's nest. When the ninja village was established, there were also various problems. As long as we solve these problems at the earliest opportunity, then everything that follows will develop in a good direction. The Black Dragon Akunologia also nodded slightly, and he also has a deep understanding of the matter of preventing problems before they happen. If he could have been more vigilant about the magic he learned back then and made more detailed plans, he would not have fallen into the state of being regarded as an enemy by the whole world. When he heard this, Dean Riding nodded slightly, and said, the situation is indeed getting more and more serious, and in the future, this kind of thing may increase. After all, our name of Resource Retrograde has attracted too many people. Many pirates have come here directly. And the most important thing is, with a large number of fleets, they leave the island directly with the corresponding fine wines, and send the fine wines all over the world 3 times. More and more pirates and corresponding civilians are directly attracted by the name of fine wine, and they continue to come and go to Dora Vega Island for trade, or simply to enjoy these fine wines. That's why this island will become more and more prosperous. When there are more people, all kinds of things will of course appear. So my initial idea now is to set up a dimensional inspection team. The captain of each dimensional inspection team is all of us. In the early stage, we can conduct corresponding patrols at a fixed time, or even irregular patrols. After we select a qualified inspection captain from the corresponding personnel who will join the inspection personnel later, we can hand over all these matters to the captain we are optimistic about. When he heard this, Ace Kano on the side couldn't help being surprised and said, this method sounds really good. In this way, it can also make those pirates who really want to join our dimension retrograde. I have a thought. Even Thor, who was on the side, couldn't help applauding. Yes, my lord, the rumors outside this house will be reduced a lot. Because dimensional retrograde has been unwilling to absorb the corresponding pirates into the team. Therefore, more and more pirates secretly began to slander the dimension retrograde. Similar remarks are probably that the people of the dimension retrograde look down on all pirates except the members of the team. Therefore, there will not be any star pirates in the entire retrograde team. And these guys are only spreading these messages among their own small groups, so even if Dean Riding and others know that this kind of message appears, they can't be sure who is spreading all this secretly. Point 166 Cooperation with news agencies. And such rumors, if not restrained, will have a huge influence on the entire pirate group. After all, some pirates who don't know it will think that the dimension retrograde really looks down on other pirates. In this way, the status of the resource retrograde in the hearts of many pirates may begin to decline sharply. After all, 3 people become tigers, the power of rumors is still very terrifying. A faint smile appeared on Dean Riding's face, and he said, since everyone has no objections, then Tushan Yaya, you can formulate the inspection rules for the corresponding inspection team. And make it into a corresponding announcement as soon as possible and make it public. Tushan nodded heavily, a look of excitement flashed across his face. Tushan Yaya has a desire for power in her bones. What's more, in her original world race, Tushan Yaya's status is not that high, and she has always been very dissatisfied with the achievements of her sister Tushan Honghong. Therefore, for the first time, Tushan Yaya regards this opportunity in front of her as the first step in establishing her own great achievements. Soon, Tushan Yaya formulated the corresponding announcement of the dimensional inspection team and made it public directly. And in the entire Dora Vega Island, the pot exploded soon. Many pirates are discussing crazily. Which guys said that the dimension retrogrades look down on us? Aren't they already preparing to form a corresponding inspection team? Besides, this inspection team can officially start signing up in 3 days. This time I must join it. And according to the contents of the announcement, the patrol team seems to have the right to govern the entire island. Hehe, this time I must not be left behind. I have long had a problem with those arrogant merchants in various taverns. When Lousy becomes a member of the inspection team, I must ask them for an explanation. Many pirates are eager to join the patrol team directly. But many merchants on the island are a little worried at the moment. Because according to the content of the announcement system, the members of the inspection team have the right to manage the corresponding industries on the island and the right to make suggestions. Once these arrogant big pirates directly start to do whatever they want, their existing structure will be seriously affected. Soon, many merchants gathered together directly. Advertisement. The atmosphere of the whole scene also became a little dull. Now we have finally established a huge foundation on this island. If these pirates have the right to openly attack us, I am afraid our foundation will be completely destroyed. That's right, there isn't a single good thing among those disgusting pirates. Many of them are guarded by the blood of many civilians. Could it be that the Dimension rebels don't intend to protect us? If this is the case, we may need to plan early and prepare to leave the island as soon as possible. However, at this moment, among the many businessmen, a very famous old man stood up directly and said, I think we need to continue to wait and see about this matter. After all, judging from the current situation, the dimensional retrogrades are planning to make this island their base camp. So I don't think they will let many big pirates wreak havoc at will. 0. If we were allowed to enter this island, we should have heard that many pirates were warned by resource retrogrades. That's why I think it's impossible for the adults of the resource retrogrades to fail to see the threat this patrol team poses to the business sector. Let's continue to wait for the latest notice. Dean Riding on the other side naturally also thought that after the establishment of the patrol team, many unruly pirates would have an impact on the existing business structure, so the car has already started the next step of preparation. 0. Soon, Dean Riding found the phone bug that contacted Morgans directly, and dialed him directly. The phone in front of Dean Riding quickly changed its image, directly changing into the shape of Fukuro's head. President Morgans, I have a business and I want to talk to you. And when he received a call from Dean Riding, Morgans also became very excited immediately. Because after the last World Live broadcast, the battle triggered by the dimensional retrograde helped the news agency's reputation above the sea continue to rise to a higher level. Morgans believes that dimensional retrograde is a lucky endorsement for their news agency. Therefore, for Morgans, he naturally hopes to continue to keep in touch with the dimension retrograde. No problem, our news agency welcomes people from all walks of life to cooperate with us in a compliant and reasonable manner. Then Dean Riding also showed a look of satisfaction on his face. He didn't expect that Morgans was unexpectedly good at communicating. Point 167 The problem of understaffing. Dean Riding had to tell directly about his plan to establish a dimensional patrol team on the island of Dora Vega. The establishment of the inspection team does have huge hidden dangers, because the personnel of the internal inspection team are composed of pirates, and these guys have various personalities. So to keep these guys in check, I'd like to be able to order a new batch of phone bugs from you. These phone bugs can monitor all the images in their law enforcement process anytime and anywhere. And I hope that another kind of matching phone bug can access these law enforcement footage at any time. In this way, the 230 and the 2 can form a special targeting mechanism, then I believe that the patrol team can continue to operate normally on my island. Upon hearing this, Morgans had a strange look on his face, and then said directly, no problem, our news agency is currently researching a new type of phone bug. I understand your request, and after 3 days, a corresponding prototype will be produced. If you are satisfied, within 3 hours after 3 days, I can resend a large number of calls to Dora Vega Island. Hearing this, Dean Riding nodded in satisfaction, and said, then, President Morgans, happy cooperation. Morgans also directly said, it is a pleasure to cooperate, and I hope that both of us can cooperate in more fields in the future. After hanging up the phone bug, Dean Riding suddenly felt that Morgans was a bit interesting. Dean Riding is naturally very clear that the news agency created by Morgans in the future is a complete drug tyrant and the entire sea has the mouthpiece above the entire sea. But today's news agency is only a minor celebrity, and there is a huge gap between Morgans himself and the future overlord of the press. Speaking of which, the real identity of this guy Morgans should not be known yet, this guy is now in the early stages. It seems that I can collect this guy's information earlier and find out his true identity as soon as possible. Dean Riding is naturally very clear that the news agency held by Morgans will become a most important part in the future. Therefore, in order to ensure that people who are nature retrogrades will not be affected by the news from the news agency in the future, Dean Riding must do everything possible to reach an in-depth cooperation with Morgans, or grasp Morgans' handle. When thinking of this, Dean Riding directly set his sights on the many existing summoning points, and quickly began to calculate in his heart. During the last battle in the Holy Land of Mariajoy, Dean Riding naturally gained a lot of summon points. Of course, the current resource retrograde is strong enough. Advertisement. Dean Riding originally wanted to save all these summon points, and wait for a big wave in the later stage. But now it seems that dimensional retrograde needs to usher in a new crew member. And on the other side of the Hive Island, I saw that the battle between Kaido and Captain John at this time has reached a fierce stage. And the fighting time between the two has already directly broken through 10 minutes. At this time, Kaido has a lot of bullet holes on the surface of his body. But Kaido still stood firmly on the spot, showing no signs of wanting to fall to the ground. 0. And at this time, the people around who were watching the battle had already been completely shocked. This guy hasn't fallen down yet, he has been under Captain John's hands for half an hour. This guy is really a lunatic. He already has enough injuries on his body, and he didn't expect to be able to continue fighting. It's terrible. No wonder this guy proposes to build his own team. It turns out that he is so strong. At this time, the surroundings were watching the battle, and none of the many children dared to make mocking remarks to Kaido. And many core cadres of the Locks pirates also looked at Kaido in front of them with solemn expressions. Another core cadre, Akoku, suddenly said, Locks, are you also interested in Kaido? Logically speaking, the test that Kaido needs to accept has already ended, and this battle should have ended long ago. But Locks in front of him still didn't say anything to stop the battle. Hearing Lock 0.1 here, Jonin couldn't help showing a smile on his face, and then said, Kaido, this kid has shown a talent that makes my eyes shine. And I feel that his internal strength seems to have reached a bottleneck stage. I hope that in this battle, this guy can make a breakthrough, and I also hope that this guy can bring us some surprises. At this time, Locks was in a great mood. Because he sees infinite potential in Kaido. He sees potential in Kaido similar to the Dimension Retrograde members. 168 Captain John's appreciation, Kaido's persistence. And the many core team members who heard this were all silent. In fact, deep in their hearts, they were also very shocked. They also never thought that Kaido would be able to persist until now. At this time, the Golden Lion couldn't help being surprised, and said, it seems that we are still too young. After seeing this guy, I didn't expect him to give us all a huge surprise. Whitebeard also nodded, and said, I just don't know why this guy joined the Locks Pirates before. Some of this guy's ideas about partners make me a little unacceptable. Because of Dean riding, the relationship between Whitebeard and Golden Lion has become a lot better. When Ten heard this, Golden Lion also laughed without hesitation. Isn't Kaido's idea common in this world? But your guy's idea is what makes people a little confused. This is the first time I've heard that someone wants to treat all members of the pirates as family members. Sometimes I can't understand your guy. The concept of the real team that Whitebeard wants to form is very clear to everyone. It's just that the current Whitebeard has not instilled this philosophy in his team. But Whitebeard has made a conscious effort to screen his team. If Whitebeard wants to lead his team to establish and achieve success in the Locks Pirates, it naturally needs some powerful members to join. Therefore, Whitebeard in this period has no way to make strict requirements and screening for his subordinates. But the idea in Whitebeard's heart has never changed. He wants to build a pirate group full of family members. Whitebeard just pouted slightly, but didn't continue to answer. At this time, Captain John on the battlefield couldn't help but said, Kaido, if you admit defeat now, then this battle can be successfully ended. And I can also tell you directly that you have passed the test. But if you want to continue, even I can't guarantee whether you can survive this battle. Captain John also looked at Kaido in front of him completely differently. How serious Kaido's surface injuries are, Captain John is the one who knows best. Therefore, even Captain John never thought that this guy Kaido would be able to continue to support it. Whoa, advertisement. Kaido's chest was constantly twitching like a broken bellows, his eyes were full of determination, and he just stared at Captain John in front of him. I never back down from a fight, and the fight is far from over. Since the battle between us has begun, the outcome of this battle can only be that one of them falls. The arrogant remarks, coupled with the large amount of blood on the surface of Kaido's body, made Kaido at this moment seem to have no sense of disobedience. And at this time, the people around didn't feel that Kaido was a little arrogant because of Kaido's words. At this time, Kaido showed his own haughty demeanor, and she completely won the approval of many big pirates present. Golden Lion couldn't help but nodded. This guy must have a place in the sea of the future, and we all missed it. Even Whitebeard, who had a corresponding opinion about Kaido, couldn't help but nod. And at this time, Charlotte Linlin had almost regretted it in his heart. Charlotte Linlin never imagined that Kaido has such a huge potential. I knew this guy was so strong, so I made this kid the most important thing to train. Charlotte Linlin took Kaido into her bag on the battlefield of destroying the country, but she didn't pay enough attention to Kaido. Because at that time Kaido did not show the potential to make him fall in love with 893. But it hasn't been long, and the strength Kaido has shown has already made Charlotte and Linlin unable to ignore it. Unfortunately, all this is irreparable. Charlotte and Linlin looked at Kaido on the battlefield and understood completely. At this time, it is impossible for Kaido to gather in the Locks Pirates, under any core cadre. Only Locks can directly make Kaido, who is like a madman, bow his head. At this moment, Locks looked at Kaido with a look of satisfaction almost overflowing. On the battlefield, Captain John couldn't help but let out a burst of laughter. Woo ha ha, you're such a funny guy. Since you are so persistent, then I will fulfill you. Let me show you something newer. As he said that, Captain John drew out the second flintlock gun directly from his waist, holding guns in both left and right hands. .169 Spear Fighting Technique, Profound Yin-Yang Fighting. When they saw this, many core cadres of the Locks Pirates suddenly talked about it. Could it be that Captain John wants to show his own trump card? Isn't it too inappropriate to directly show one's true strength in front of a junior? Looks like Captain John is really D off, or maybe he really wants to show Kaido something different. Even Whitebeard's face became very serious at this time, and he couldn't help but said, if this kid Kaido can survive Captain John's move, then this guy's future will be endless. Can be limited. Golden Lion also nodded heavily and said, it's really an exciting battle. Just when Captain John took out his second flintlock, the atmosphere on the entire battlefield immediately became very solemn. Those who have fought with the Locks Pirates for a long time naturally know very well that only when Captain John takes out the second flintlock gun does it mean that he has really entered the fighting state. On the battlefield, Kaido also immediately felt that Captain John in front of him had undergone a complete and earth-shaking change in an instant. At this time, the murderous aura on the surface of Captain John's body also became much stronger in an instant. Kaido can even clearly see wisps of red aura, constantly emerging on the surface of John's body. What a terrifying murderous aura. A look of status and shock flashed across Kaido's face. At this time, Captain John had a smile on his face, and said directly, "Boy, are you scared now? This is just the beginning." Boom. As soon as the words fell to the ground, an extremely strong aura erupted from the surface of Captain John's body. Numerous red auras directly condensed into substantive waves, which began to continuously circle around the surface of his body. At this time, Captain John seemed to be wearing a red armor, and his whole body was completely covered by the blood-colored armor. At the same time, dense cracks immediately appeared on the surface of the ground where Captain John was standing. Ka 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 ka. Until now, everyone watching the battle can see a large number of cracks, which are constantly moving towards the surrounding area. And the source of the crack is exactly where Captain John's body is. Centering on the ground where Captain John was standing, a large number of cracks are frantically spreading around. Advertisement. At this time, Captain John didn't even launch an attack directly. Kaido, you have to understand that this world is much brighter than you imagined. Captain John directly raised two flintlock guns. And in an instant, Kaido's body went straight into a state of stiffness. He could even clearly perceive him at this moment, as if he was completely locked by a ferocious beast. And this beast will completely tear his body into pieces in the next moment. At the same time, the surfaces of the two flintlock guns in Captain John's hands immediately turned into two completely different colors, one black and one white. At the same time, a large amount of black and white aura surged directly towards the two flintlocks. At this time, Captain John's eyes were full of firmness. Captain John's original kindness on the surface of his body completely disappeared at this moment. At this time, Captain John's eyes were full of Ling's expression, as if in an instant, he completely turned into an executioner who was about to swing the butcher's knife. Spear fighting technique, profound yin-yang fighting. Next, accompanied by two crisp voices. The triggers of the two flintlock guns were pulled directly. At the same time, the broken hair of Captain John's left and right hands immediately shot out two black and white beams of light. In an instant, these two black and white beams of light began to circle around. Then, a huge beam of light mixed with black and white, moved towards Kaido's direction at an extremely fast speed. And at the front of these two beams of light, you can even see two completely different black and white bullets. And the faces of many core cadres around all flashed a dignified look. Even Whitebeard couldn't help but said, "Although it's not the first time, good jows, I've seen this guy's move, I still can't understand this so-called gunfighting technique. What's going on?" The Golden Lion on the side also said solemnly, "This gunfighting technique is an original fighting technique created by this guy. I am afraid that apart from his descendants, there will be no second person who has learned this fighting technique. The gunfighting skills shown by Captain John can even directly change the existing combat pattern of a sniper. As long as anyone who uses firearms to fight, learns the gunfighting technique, his own strength level will rise rapidly. You must know that this trick, even the strongest locks among the crowd, cannot master it. 170 Arrival of new members. Of course, Locks may not bother to master this kind of fighting skills, because a strong man like Locks has already found his own way to become stronger. Moreover, a strong man like Locks will not be attracted by other ways to become stronger from the outside world at all, and the thoughts in his heart have already been completely firmed up. At the same time, a look of horror flashed across Kaido's face. At this time, Kaido suddenly found that her body had completely entered a state of rigidity. Facing such a terrible attack, Kaido couldn't even control his body and continued to move. However, even at this time, deep in Kaido's heart, there is still no fear, only some unwillingness and resentment. On the island of Dora Vega, Dean Riding is mixing the latest researched special cocktails on the bar. The door was opened continuously, and people's shadows entered one after another. The ones who entered it were the members of Dimensional Retrograde, Tushan Yaya and others. As soon as she walked in, Tushan Yaya couldn't help but complain to 453, "What's the matter with Dean Riding? I'm busy processing the inspection team registration now. I'm really busy here, or you can call me a few people, Hailong and the others are doing nothing all day long." And at this time, the Black Dragon Akuno Nokia couldn't help curling his lips, and said, "I'm busy getting stronger every day, how can it be regarded as doing nothing?" After the last battle in the Holy Land of Mariajoy, the Black Dragon suddenly realized that as long as he fought high-intensity battles, his body would adapt to the world faster. In order to completely return to his peak strength, the Black Dragon Akuno Nokia would often find a deserted island, and then crazily performed various attacks. And Senju Hashirama and others in the Black Dragon Akunology are also performing the same thing. The only exception is Ace Kano. If Ace Kano wants to fully recover his strength, he must attack with all his strength at noon and fight high-intensity battles with all his strength. Therefore, except for the time at noon, the rest of the time of Ace Kano seems to be relatively leisurely. Let me help you. Ace Kano spoke suddenly. It was evening at this time, so Ace Kano seemed to be relatively easy to talk to. However, at this time, Tushan Yaya hurriedly waved her hand and said, "You guys, forget it. I don't want my registration site to become a mess." Advertisement. During this period of time, the registration point has been gathering a large number of pirates. When many pirates gather together, there will always be various conflicts. And Ace Kano will directly enter the sky and the earth at noon, in a state of supremacy. In this state, Ace Kano would not put anyone in his eyes except Dean Riding. Therefore, Ace Kano might not be able to resist attacking the many pirates on the spot. At that time, I'm afraid things will really get out of hand. BACG. Bang, bang. Dean Riding takes out his right index finger, lightly tapping on the bar. Immediately, everyone at the scene quieted down and turned their attention to Dean Riding. Dean Riding said calmly, I called you here today mainly to introduce a new member to you. At the same time, all the people present set their sights on the bar counter, with their backs turned to a man in black robe. When Tushan Yaya and the others entered the tavern, they had already spotted a figure in a black robe on the bar counter. As the reputation of Dimension Retrograde continues to expand, the tavern managed by Dean Riding himself is no longer accessible to everyone. Pirates without certain strength cannot easily step into this tavern. Because the aura of the many big pirates drinking alcohol inside will directly shut out the weak. You must know that today is the internal gathering of the dimensional rebels, and the powerful pirates who often come here on weekdays were directly persuaded to rebel. Of course, Tushan Yaya and the others would not think that a mediocre North can be directly approved by Dean Riding, and they have been sitting in the tavern. It seems that this is our new member. Tushan Yaya stood up straight away, looking up and down at the figure in black robes in front of her. Soon, Tushan Yaya frowned directly, and said, why do I feel that there are two completely different energies in this guy's body? He is like a collection of contradictions. Even the Black Dragon Akuno Nokia said with great interest at this time, how does this guy continue to exist? I feel like this guy is like a mass of wool without substance. And at this time, Senju Hashirama is firmly locked onto the figure in front of him. 171 Black and White 2 Ultimate Ginseng Part 1. The next moment, Senju Hashirama couldn't help but said, I always feel that this guy in front of me has a faint connection with me. Hearing this, Dean Riding showed an indifferent smile on his face, and said, tell me about yourself. Then, the figure in black robe in front of him slowly turned around. Everyone, it seems that we will fight side by side together in the future, you can call me Ju. What appeared in front of everyone was a body composed of two independent consciousness bodies, a strange existence with one side black and the other white. Just when Tushan Yaya was about to say hello, Ju saw the left half of her body and said directly, you can call me White Zetsu. Then the right half of the body was completely black, and said directly, you can also call me Black Zetsu directly. When seeing this, even the Black Dragon Akunologia said strangely, not only do they share the same body, but do they have two completely different consciousnesses? How does a creature like this continue to exist? This is beyond the description of simply upgraded, because the fusion of the two of them is too close and perfect. In the black and white body, except for the two completely different colors, it looks like a real and completely independent person. Dean Riding had an indifferent look on his face, and then said, this guy is from the same world as Senju Hashirama. Upon hearing this, a bright light burst out from Senju Hashirama's eyes. I finally understand why this guy in front of me gives me a very familiar feeling, because he also has traces of chakra on his body. It's been a long time since I came into this world to feel chakra fluctuations from other people. Speaking of this, Senju Hashirama looked at Dean Riding on the side, raised his hand and said, of course you don't count, because all the ninjutsu in your body are inherited from my body, and even the chakra inside your body is almost a copy of the chakra inside me. There was also a faint smile on Dean Riding's face. Under the influence of the system, although he can inherit the strength of all his team members, this kind of inheritance is completely equivalent to copying. Of course, this kind of duplication can also ensure that the power he got from other members can be perfectly integrated into his own body. Moreover, Dean Riding can also continue to become stronger through his own practice while inheriting the power of others. Advertisement. And in a sense, when a person inherits multiple powerful powers at the same time, his basic cultivation ability and combat experience of the I-Ghost will undergo unrecoverable changes. Because not everyone can be the top among many realms. The inheritance function of the system is completely equivalent to putting Dean Riding on top of an all-round role. Regardless of the special ability from which world, Dean Riding can push it directly to the end position. In this way, Dean Riding's strength can naturally improve by leaps and bounds. At this time, Black and White could not help but said, Senju Hashirama, in a sense, when I was single, you were far from showing up. Zero looking for flowers. When hearing this, Senju Hashirama frowned directly, and said on the spot, but your strength seems to be beyond the stage at all, and you should be the weakest one in our team. At this time, Black and White can only helplessly spread their hands, and said, I admit this, but my strengths are not in fighting. When they heard this, Tushan Yaya and the others on the side also showed a look of astonishment on their faces. Zero. What? Is your strength not in combat? Then how do you gain a foothold in our team? We have always ranked by the level of combat power. The Black Dragon Akunologia stared at Ju in front of him with great interest, wishing he could start studying him directly. At this time, Ace Kano directly frowned and said, so Dean Riding, is this guy the mascot of our team in the future? Speaking of which, according to the size of our team, it is indeed time to add a new mascot. In this way, we can also find some greater fun in them. At this time, the faces of Tushan Yaya and the others also showed a look of joy. At this time, Thor stared at Ju in front of him tightly, and couldn't help but said, this guy is from another world. He should know how to make many delicacies, right? 172 A product of the will, a unique existence. It seems that I have to find a way to get all the recipes in this guy's stomach. Ukiora Cypher was on the sidelines the whole time. To a certain extent, he was the one who understood the current state of feeling best among the crowd. The Battle of Ulquiorra Cipher has involved the state of the soul, and the soul and consciousness are inextricably linked. Therefore, Ulquiorra Cipher is better able to understand what kind of state he is in. Definitely built from white Zetsu and black Zetsu. White Zetsu is the final product of the 270, after the fall of human beings immersed in infinite Tsukuyomi in ancient times. This is a corresponding creature or collection of wills produced by a very unique human consciousness. While black Zetsu is the product of the will of Otsutsuki Kagaya, it is also decided to count as a unique creature born of a strange combination of soul and willpower. And the combination of the two, to some extent, completely constitutes a real product of will. Such products rarely appear in other worlds. What's more, black Zetsu and white Zetsu completely have their own unique meanings, and there are often conflicting decisions between the two. This is also the peculiarity of the birth of this kind of creature. And at this time, Dean writing didn't introduce too much uniqueness to everyone. The positioning of black Zetsu and white Zetsu in our team is indeed not the direction of attack, but the detection of intelligence and other abdominal functions. Then, Dean writing directly looked at black Zetsu and white Zetsu beside him. The next moment, under the gaze of everyone, the bodies of black Zetsu and white Zetsu were completely divided into two, and directly integrated into the ground. At this time, Ace Kano and others couldn't help but directly use observation haki to lock the absolute position. They were suddenly shocked to find that observation haki couldn't allow them to lock on the Jew below the ground at all. What's going on here? Could it be that observation haki can't perceive the existence of this guy? Or she used a strange way to directly isolate observation haki's induction? At the same time, Tushan Yaya's body surface seemed to be shining with a faint blue light, and at the same time, she couldn't help but licked her sexy red lips. I want to see where this guy is hiding. Advertisement. Tushan Yaya's right hand directly patted the bottom of the ground, and then the faint blue light began to go deep into the bottom of the ground and began to search. At the same time, the expression of black and white in the depths of the ground changed drastically in an instant. They can clearly feel that these blue rays of light seem to be capturing their positions. And their abilities seem to be unable to avoid the capture of these blue energies at all. However, at the next moment, one after another white figures jumped out directly from below the ground and approached Jomai of everyone present at a very fast speed. At the same time, everyone including Tushan Yaya has responded in a timely manner. Everyone's body was directly facing white Zetsu in front of them, and there was no time for this guy to leave anything. And at this time, white Zetsu, who was a little proud at first, and the crowd couldn't find his trace, also fully understood how terrifying the strength of these guys in front of him was. Because although he can rely on his speed and the convenience of a sneak attack to get close to everyone. But in fact, Tushan Yaya and others had already discovered his traces at the first moment of his action. Tushan Yaya turned people's heads and started. It seems that if you hide directly deep in the ground, it will be difficult for others to use induction methods such as observation haki to find you. But since you chose to jump out at the last moment, it means that my mana can work for you. Hearing white Zetsu here, he just nodded his head. That's right, the special energy on your body is really strange enough. If I hadn't directly picked the right time to jump out of the ground, I'm afraid you would have caught it long ago. I'm in my place. At this moment, Ace Kano's right leg suddenly stepped down. Boom. Then, a pothole appeared on the ground inside the tavern. Black Zetsu's body slowly emerged from it. As soon as he appeared, a look of astonishment flashed across Black Zetsu's face, and 4.4 couldn't help but said, "How did you find me? I just didn't notice any special energy entering the ground." And at this time, it was at noon, and Ace Kano directly entered the sky and the earth, in a state of supremacy. Ace Kano looked contemptuously at Black Zetsu in front of him, and said, "Under the sunlight, all dark creatures have nowhere to hide. So what if you hide deep underground? The brilliance of the sun will shine on every corner of the world, including the ground below." 173 The role of black and white. Hearing this, the corner of Black Zetsu's mouth couldn't help twitching. At this time, the depressed mood in Tushan Yaya's heart has all disappeared. Originally, they planned to continue to use corresponding methods to explore the hidden ways of the black and white two under the ground, or to continue trying to find the black and white two under the ground. However, after seeing Ace Kano force out Black Zetsu directly, and Black Zetsu was deflated in front of Ace Kano, his heart suddenly became much more comfortable. After all, in the whole team, except for Dean Riding, no one can have any face at all in front of Ace Kano, who is the only one in heaven and earth. Just when Ace Kano continued to repeat his standard remarks about the sun god, Dean Riding said helplessly, "Ace Kano, wait a moment." At this time, Ace Kano stopped preparing for a long speech, and locked his eyes tightly on Dean 10 Redding. And the surrounding black and white can be clearly seen. At this time, the Ace Kano scene completely ignored anyone except Dean Riding. Could it be that this guy's strength has reached the level where he can ignore everyone around him? Or this guy's personality is very weird? Black and white urge couldn't help but mutter. At least they felt that the Ace Kano in front of them was very weird. And seeing this scene, Tushan Yaya and the others couldn't help but started laughing. Following Dean Riding's eye glance, and then the extremely joyous scene, it was completely quiet. The custom-made phone from Morgan's side has arrived on site. Tushan Yaya, I will trouble you next time. You use the fastest speed to screen all the people who signed up for the Dimensional Patrol team. All those who succeed in taking up the job in the end need to wear corresponding special phone bugs. And you have to make it clear to them that once they have this phone bug, everything they do during the patrol will be recorded. As long as they do something that violates the corresponding rules or affects the stability of the entire island, we will exclude them from the dimensional inspection team without hesitation. When hearing this, Tushan Yaya nodded heavily, and said, I will definitely do my best. But even if I use my magic power directly, it's still difficult to observe the process of each dimensional patrol member's task execution at the same time. Advertisement. And even if these phone bugs can directly record all their every move, I can't read their actions slowly afterwards. Even Senju Hashirama on the side couldn't help but said, the quality of the first batch of people who joined the dimensional patrol team is uneven, and opportunity is a tool for them to amass a lot of money. So we had to come up with an effective way to monitor them. 1. When he heard this, a smile appeared on Dean Riding's face, and then he directly looked at the black and white too. I saw the black and white at this moment shaking their bodies gently. Spore technique. I saw a series of black or white light spots, spreading towards the surroundings. Every black and white light point will completely become a clone of black Zetsu or white Zetsu when it touches the ground. In a short period of time, a large number of clones completely filled the entire tavern. Then uniform voices began to sound in the tavern. Leave it to me to monitor the inspection team members in each dimension. I guarantee that all rebels and villains will have nowhere to hide under my eyes. Black and white can completely rely on their buns to start expanding their avatars crazily. Moreover, these avatars can also carry out 837 corresponding surveillance in the dark. Of course, the most important thing is a black and white master. The death of a large number of clones will not affect his body. Under such circumstances, no matter what actions the black and white absolutes make, they will actually have no influence. A look of excitement flashed across Tushan Yaya's face when she saw this, and she said, so this is the biggest role of this guy. This time, as long as this guy can arrange a spy next to every member of the resource inspection team to watch their every move, so that the election of the dimensional patrol team will soon be completely over. Quote. And at this time, the black dragon Akuno Loki and the others also became very curious about the black and white 2 unique spore technique. At the same time, on the other side of the Hive Island, the battle between Kaido and Captain John is drawing to a close. I saw the extremely powerful black and white 2-color beam of light quickly approaching Kaido's body. 174 Dragon Man form, Rising Star. Originally Kaido was in a state of absolute rigidity. In this state, Kaido couldn't even survive the attack of the black and white beam of light. But at the last moment, Kaido let out a roar with extremely strong willpower. Roar. The next moment, Kaido's body suddenly swelled, and his head changed accordingly. A ferocious dragon's head appeared on his shoulder. And the black hair on the surface of Kaido's body also began to grow crazily, swaying constantly under the breeze. At this time, Kaido has completely turned into a real dragon man, and his physical condition has risen to another level. Relying on his strong physical fitness, Kaido abruptly blocked one of Captain John's whole cards. Of course, at this time, the scars on Kaido's body surface became very clear. There were even numerous cracks appearing on the surface of his body. His whole body was like a piece of exquisite porcelain that was about to break. Obviously, if Captain John's new attack continues to fall on the surface of his body, falling on the spot is the only end and situation he can get. Boom. Accompanied by a dull sound, Kaido's body fell straight to the ground. However, soon there was a burst of cheers at the scene. Because at this time Kaido was fully under the attack of Captain John and persisted for an hour. And at this time, Kaido did not die at all. In the case of Captain John's intentional love affair, Kaido was only temporarily in a coma. And relying on this guy's strong physical fitness, I am afraid that when he wakes up, the many scars left on his body will completely disappear. Kaido has made a state and record that many people can't even imagine. Even Captain John looked at it with complicated expressions at this time, and Kaido, who had fallen on the ground and fell into a coma, said directly, what an amazing guy. It seems that it won't be long before our Locks Pirates will have a real rising star. At this time, Charlotte Linlin was so remorseful that she was about to go crazy. Damn it, why didn't I take this guy seriously? Advertisement. If I had known that he had such potential, I would have kept him by my side all the time. Hearing the core cadres of the many Locks Pirates here, they began to joke wildly. Charlotte Linlin, why don't you forget it? If you keep him with you, I'm afraid he won't have any future at all. That's right, although he's physically strong, he can't make you a scourge all day long. That's right, Charlotte Linlin, you should change your marriage partner. Kaido, this guy is the next core cadre of our Locks Pirates. After fully realizing the power of Kaido, many core cadres present were naturally very fortunate that Kaido and Charlotte had already parted ways. Otherwise, Charlotte Linlin, who is already like a lunatic, and if he gets the help of the extremely powerful Kaido, the team led by Charlotte Linlin will occupy most of the resources in the follow-up battle. And this is definitely not something they can tolerate. Therefore, when Charlotte Linlin was extremely remorseful at this time, the emotions of many other core cadres became very happy. After all, the competition between many core cadres is to go on with each other, and the sadness of the opponent is their happiness. And this time Whitebeard also said with a complicated expression, the Kadoi gang is like a real beast, because the sheep are so arrogant that they have obtained the future pass to join the core cadres of the Locks Pirates. Kaido's performance has entered the eyes of everyone. Therefore, as long as Kaido continues to grow according to his normal rhythm, then the core cadre team of the Ross Pirates will definitely have a place for him in the future. The Golden Lion on the side also said with great emotion, "It seems that we will be surpassed by a junior. This guy's physical fitness, even I am extremely envious." We must know that Kaido at this time not only showed amazing progress in armament hockey's cultivation, but also showed Wang Nuo's extremely strong physical fitness. Edward, what do you think this guy's devil fruit ability is like? Just now, he actually directly entered the human form. Could it be that this guy has blood from the dragon clan in his body? Hearing Whitebeard here, Deng even rolled his eyes, and said, haven't you ever thought that what Kaido has is probably a phantom beast devil fruit? The owner of the phantom beast devil fruit can directly show the appearance of many creatures that have long since disappeared in the river of history, and even the appearance of some legendary creatures can also directly appear. 175 Absolute Brain Tank. It is precisely because of this that Whitebeard made a corresponding judgment immediately after seeing Kaido enter the dragon form. Simultaneously, similar topics came up directly in the conversation between Locks and Captain John. It's just that at this time Locks and Captain John have come to Locks' exclusive territory. Under such circumstances, no one can know the content of the conversation between the two of them. In the captain's room, I saw Captain John and Locks sitting on a sofa at the same time. The two seemed to be on equal footing. Then in the outside world, Captain John treated Locks with respect. I'm afraid no one can think that in private, the two of them are actually equals. In a sense, Captain John was one of Locks' true brains. Locks frowned slowly, and said, Kaido is a guy with great potential, how about it? Captain John, do you like him? At this moment, Director John shook his head slightly, and said directly, Kaido's own potential is indeed very good, but that guy is not an existence willing to be inferior to others. Quote, everything he doesn't like about Charlotte Linlin is just an excuse he made. He just wants to take this opportunity to get out and build his own team. It's a pity that we didn't directly discover Kaido, otherwise such a good seed would not have been wasted. A look of ultimate regret appeared on Captain John's face. He is very clear that if Kaido is brought by his side and cultivated carefully before Kaido has risen, I am afraid that Kaido will become a sharp sword in the hands of Locks Baba. However, Kaido has been in stock for too long, and he has no thoughts of the Locks pirates at all in his mind, and has no respect for anyone. Advertisement. If it weren't for the fact that many core cadres of the Locks pirates are stronger than Kaido, I am afraid that Kaido's arrogant and domineering side has already been revealed. The tenacity shown by Guy on the battlefield is more of his dissatisfaction with Captain John. Captain John said faintly, I can clearly feel that Kaido is very proud in his heart. Perhaps it won't take long in his heart, she will completely surpass us, so in the previous battle, he was not willing to bow to me at all, and he supported it until he fell into a coma. Locks on the side also said in a deep voice, it's a pity, even if we pour out the Emperor's inferiority on him, I'm afraid Song will be able to cultivate the next heavy lottery Linlin. The bottom line is, I think this guy might be tougher than Charlotte Linlin. At least Charlotte Linlin would still be able to pretend when she was not strong enough at the beginning, but this Kaido doesn't even want to pretend when she is not strong enough now. Perhaps in Kaido's heart, he is extremely proud and looks down on the existence of everyone. When he heard this, Captain John on the side also nodded slightly, and said directly, the future of this guy Kaido is limitless, but unfortunately, our Locks pirates don't have enough time to give it to us. She is slowly growing up. The Marine side and the world government side can tolerate us, I am afraid it will not be long. Captain John and Locks have always had a corresponding pressure in their hearts, because they have had the world's #1 pirate group on their heads for too long. And the title of the world's #1 pirate group is more like a reminder. If the strength of the Locks pirate group cannot keep up with the expectations of the outside world in a short time, I am afraid that Locks see the day when the bandits fall apart is at hand. It is precisely because of this that Locks directly put his pirate group into the stalking stage, allowing a large number of people to start a crazy attack, and finally, constantly hone their own strength to improve their combat effectiveness. It is also through this method that the powerful combat power displayed by the Locks pirates has attracted the attention of everyone in the world. But it is a pity that there are also big problems within the Locks pirates. Not everyone recognizes the captain of Locks, and they just use the name of the Locks pirates to continue wandering in the sea. Hearing this, Captain John on the side slowly said, the Locks pirates have developed to this day, perhaps because of our lack of experience, but more because we are too strong, so strong that the outside world can't even unattainable. Fortunately, a dimensional retrograde popped up a while ago, and their appearance should buy us more time. Dimensional retrograde's strong performance is enough to attract most of the attention of Marine and world government. 176 The out-and-out career. The Locks pirates can also slowly develop their own strength under this opportunity. Locks on the side suddenly said, isn't there a group called Luogia Pirates on the sea recently, and it is constantly growing? Those guys should also be able to attract the attention of the motherland for us, etc. As long as the forces appearing on the sea today are strong enough, they can attract the attention of Marine and world government. And the Locks pirates can benefit from it and compete for more time to develop themselves. However, when he heard this, Captain John frowned slightly and said, I always don't understand the Luogia pirates. They don't seem to be a group that only wants to expand and kill to strengthen their own strength. Pirates. It seems to have corresponding goals, but they have never made their goals public. And the most important thing is that there are no internal contradictions in the Luogia pirates, and corresponding internal contradictions exist. Hearing this, Locks frowned slightly, and said, "It seems that you are very optimistic about this logic, pirates, so how do you think they are compared to dimension retrogrades?" Captain John said without hesitation, "I can't see where the future of the dimensional retrogrades is, so I have no way to evaluate them. But I am very clear that the Luogia pirates are at least the number one existence above the sea. Of course all of this is based on the fact that we have completely disappeared by then." Speaking of this, the atmosphere at the scene suddenly became a little stiff. Both Captain John and Locks are very clear that if the current Locks pirates continue to develop according to the status quo, it is impossible to continue to exist as the number one in the world in the future. Because of this, in fact, they have already prepared corresponding countermeasures. Locks finally sighed heavily, and said, "I'm really not reconciled. I've spent too much time and energy for this pirate group. I didn't expect it to be because of a momentary gap, since it's the embarrassing situation we're in today. It's a pity that there is no one in our pirate group that I can directly look forward to." Captain John on the side also nodded slightly. "Edward is a weird guy. He wants to build a real pirate group like a family. I have never seen a pirate heartbroken to have such an idea and exist." Advertisement. Hearing this, Locks couldn't help laughing, and then said, "On this point, Edward's and Kaido's ideas are inherently opposite. If in the future, they can meet and get along well, maybe that will be a very interesting scene. That Golden Lion guy is a real lunatic. He's a real careerist. Golden Lion may have already been aware of the departure of the Locks pirates. So in this state, he does not want to exist directly away from the pirates. Otherwise, as long as that guy is independent from the Locks pirates, maybe he can attract a lot of vitality for us." Zero looking for flowers. Locks and Captain John have already thoroughly seen the essence of the Golden Lion, so they are also very clear that the Golden Lion cannot be a powerful helper of the Locks pirates. As for Charlotte Linlin, that guy is even more of a monster. I really can't accept and understand that guy's philosophy. From this point of view, Charlotte, Linlin, Edward and Kaido have the same name. Locks, who came here, shook his head somewhat self-deprecatingly, and did not place any hope on the Whitebeard he mentioned just now. At this moment, Locks seemed to have suddenly remembered something, and said directly, "What do you think of that guy Akoku? And what about Silver Axe?" Captain John on the side let out a breath, and said, "Akoku, this guy is essentially a real desire to become stronger, and he only hopes that he can continue to challenge a stronger existence. Therefore, perhaps on the future battlefield, this guy is one of the existences we can trust. As for Silver Axe, although he also desires to become stronger, no one knows exactly what he is thinking in his heart. Among the core cadres of the Locks pirates today, the one I can't understand the most is Silver Axe. I don't even know what this guy's next plan is." When he heard this, Captain John on the side also showed a helpless look on his face. Except for some of the people mentioned above, the core cadres of their Locks pirates are not worth mentioning at all. .177 record phone bug. But unfortunately, the only thing they can trust is Akoku. At this time, Locks suddenly said, "Captain John, do you think we should directly attack the dimension retrograde people? According to our current strength, we should be able to easily meet the dimensional retrograde. Every time I think of the battle scenes of those guys, I always feel strong fear in my heart. I always feel that those guys are not as simple as they seem on the surface, and those guys seem to be out of tune with the whole world." Hearing this, Captain John, 760, also recalled the battle scene in the Holy Land of Mariajoy that day in his mind, and then he breathed a sigh of relief and said, "There is no doubt that the dimensional retrograde led by Dean Riding, the strength of the owner is very strong. The most important thing is that they have never admitted that they are pirates, and they don't know what that guy Dean Riding is thinking. But it is precisely because the dimensional retrograde is so special that we cannot do it easily. Otherwise, without seeing enough benefits, I am afraid that everyone in our pirate group will not really show their strength. If the Locks pirates are directly defeated by the dimension retrograde, then it will be a big joke. The current Locks pirates have been overthrown, and they have already been on the top of the world. Once the Locks pirate group has the experience of defeat, then, I am afraid that the entire pirate group will completely collapse in an instant. The reason why today's Locks pirates are strong is because these pirates have never been defeated in a war, and they have never tasted the taste of failure. It is precisely because of this that all those who join the Locks pirates have blind self-confidence and absolute confidence in the battle of the entire pirates. Under such circumstances, although the interior of the Locks pirates is unstable, as long as they have a common will, they will exert a terrifying destructive power to the outside world. Under such circumstances, everyone can continue to develop logically. The Locks pirates are like a carriage that cannot be stopped. They can only pray that the road ahead is straight instead of curved, otherwise the entire Locks pirates may be completely defeated. Advertisement. In this way, after a temporary discussion between Captain John and Locks, they finally decided to give up the plan to attack the dimensional retrograde. However, the continued development of dimension retrograde will indeed have a positive effect on the entire Locks pirates, at least it can help them share the attention of the world government and marine. Especially in this dimension during this time, the retrograde just escaped from the Holy Land Mariajoy, which was an extremely shocking event for the whole world. Moreover, at this time, the world government and marine may be thinking about how to annihilate the dimensional travelers, otherwise they will have sleepless nights. They can only get back their lost face in this way. Under such circumstances, on the island of Dora Vega, Dean Riding, the Black Dragon Akunologia, and Ulquiorra Cipher are moving towards the center of the noisy island together. Because according to the corresponding information notified yesterday, Tushan Yaya will start to issue the corresponding list for entering the dimensional inspection team at the most central position of the island. It is precisely because of this that many pirates on the entire island are crazily rushing towards the center of the island. Seeing all kinds of big pirates moving towards the center, Dean Riding couldn't help but shook his head and said, I don't know what kind of method Tushan Yaya has thought of to deal with everyone's dissatisfaction. It is estimated that there will definitely not be fewer people at the scene. If there is a riot at that time, I am afraid the scene will be a little unimaginable. It was precisely because of this thought that Dean Riding led the two black dragons directly towards the center of the island. Ulquiorra Cipher on the side said without hesitation, if Tushan Yaya doesn't even have the ability to handle such a small scene, he is simply not qualified to be a member of Dimension Retrograde. The Black Dragon Akunologia also nodded in agreement. At this time, Dean Riding could only spread 2.8 hands, and then led the crowd to continue to rush forward. When they arrived at the scene, Tushan Yaya stood directly on the high platform and said to everyone, all those who sign up for the Dimensional Inspection Team can temporarily become non-staff members. However, every non-staff personnel must wear a recording phone bug when performing the corresponding inspection process. This phone bug will record everything you do during the inspection. And we can investigate the corresponding records at any time. 178 Marine also has to be protected. If your inspection behavior violates the internal rules of our island, we will immediately expel you from the scope of the inspection team and impose severe punishment. As soon as this remark came out, all the pirates below immediately exploded. Many people began to shout in dissatisfaction. What the hell are you doing? If the actions of the inspection team are to be directly restricted, then what is the significance of the establishment of the inspection team? Can't we all deal with some ordinary civilians who can't get on the stage at will? Then even if we continue to become stronger, what's the point? The guys from Dimension Retrograde, aren't they teasing us? Could it be that they deliberately came up with this method to tease us? If that's really the case, then we might as well just leave here. Why should we suffer from their birds here? More and more pirates began to shout. Even this situation has directly formed a trend. Seeing this, Dean Riding couldn't help but frown slightly. After all, these big pirates have always been rebellious, doing crazy killings on weekdays, and doing whatever they want. But now, if they want to join the Dimensional Inspection Team, they must abide by the corresponding rules, and even their every move will be directly recorded. For them, this is simply more uncomfortable than killing them. Therefore, many children on the spot started to yell in dissatisfaction, and the sound waves in the whole scene were like waves, rolling continuously. At this time, the Black Dragon Akunologia frowned slightly, wishing to directly apply the Dragon Slayer magic, and feel all these guys in front of him. It's so noisy. Ulquiorra Cipher on the side also frowned tightly. But Dean Riding just said lightly, be safe and don't be impatient, let's see how Tushan Yaya will deal with this problem. At this time, Tushan Yaya did not explain or refute on the spot, but just looked at the people below with a smile. Advertisement. When many pirates found that Tushan Yaya didn't have any thoughts of responding at all, they gradually became quiet. At this time, Tushan Yaya looked at the people in front of her with a smile, and said, first of all, the establishment of the Dimensional Inspection Team was originally to comply with everyone's voice. And my ugly words have already been said before. I have stated the corresponding rules of the Dimensional Patrol Team in advance. If you are unwilling to accept these rules, you can refuse the invitation of the Dimensional Patrol Team. Of course, we also welcome you to stay on this island and contribute to the prosperity of this island. And the capital of fine wine will always be a holy place for you to rest. Our dimensional retrogrades will always protect the people who consume here, and the people who operate here, whether they are civilians or pirates, or even people from Marine and other provinces. In short, our island of Dora Vega absolutely eliminates all killings and wars. When hearing this, Sha Fang's many big pirates couldn't help but start talking. I heard that right. He seemed to have mentioned Marine just now. Could it be that Marines can come here directly? And can't we directly attack them? Are the dimension retrogrades going to start protecting Marine? What are they thinking? There is already a grievance between Marine and the Dimension Retrograde that cannot be resolved at all. What do they think? At this moment, a man with a mask on his chin suddenly came out of the crowd wearing a patterned robe. This man has an extremely fierce aura, and his body looks extremely strong. I saw this person standing directly in front of Tushan Yaya, and said, why do you Dimension Retrogrades still protect Marine? Do you still want to protect the world government? When 833 heard this, Tushan Yaya said indifferently, Marines can also directly set foot on our island when they are not performing tasks. We should indeed protect their right to consume here. However, we don't welcome people from the world government, because almost everyone in the world government can completely become a corresponding spy in an instant. The people of the world government, apart from the absolute cutting-edge combat power of the encounter, are very good at camouflage. Moreover, the Dimension Rebels cannot judge whether they are members of the CP organization at critical moments, so they can only directly exclude all world government people from entering. As for Marine, because Marine is an indispensable part of the world's IQ, and there are many civilians who have joined Marine, or used to be Marine. Therefore, the existence of Marine cannot be directly and completely ruled out. Point 179 The inspection team was formally established. If the island simply rejects all Marines to join, it will be extremely detrimental to the development of the island. Moreover, the Dimensional Rebels never thought of establishing an indelible grievance and hatred with Marine. But hearing the many big pirates below here was completely dumbfounded. They thought they heard it wrong, but they didn't expect Tushan Yaya to admit his statement directly in front of so many people. And at this time, Dean riding in the crowd looked at the person who stood up to refute Tushan Yaya with a complicated expression. I didn't expect Jack the Drow to want to join the dimensional retrograde directly, but this guy should forget it. He is a real tyrant in his bones. And the philosophy of our nature walkers is extremely inconsistent with this guy's nature. In the future Beasts Pirates, Jack the Drow directly fished his subordinates because they failed to complete the corresponding tasks, and beat them up violently. And that subordinate almost died directly under Jack the Drow's rampage. The most important thing is that this kind of thing has happened more than once, so Dean Riding doesn't want to directly accept Jack the Drow as a near-dimensional retrograde, otherwise this guy will become a landmine sooner or later. On the other side, at this moment, Jack the Drow still had a face full of astonishment, unable to accept everything he heard at all. On the other side, Tushan Yaya showed a half-smile look on his face, and slowly looked at the people in front of him. Advertisement. At this time, many pirates, although a little dazed, understand that they can't change the decision of the dimension retrograde. At this time, Tushan Yaya added without hesitation, the establishment of this inspection team is not only to protect the safety of the entire island, but the most important thing is to select some corresponding candidates from them and directly join our dimension. Rebel. So if you are unwilling to join the patrol team, it means that you will never be able to join the dimension retrograde for the rest of your life. How to make a choice? It depends on your own ideas. At this time, the many pirates below were in an uproar. What? I didn't expect them to actually do this. Do we have to let us join this so-called inspection team? If you can only join the dimension retrograde directly by joining the patrol team, then I am willing to directly enter the patrol team, at least there is still some hope. Quote. Backquote. I'd better forget about it. I don't want to be controlled by anyone at all, so joining this so-called inspection team actually becomes a puppet that can be manipulated at any time, which is completely contrary to my nature fit. Forget it. Stay on this island and drink good wine is also good, but Jimas forget about the inspection team. After Tushan Yaya resolutely stated this point, the number of many pirates on the scene who wanted to join the patrol team also began to drop sharply. In the end, only 1/10 of the people who expressed their intention to join were left. Although it was only 1/10, the total number of on-site registrations was also very scary. Tushan Yaya and some local merchants she recruited temporarily were even more busy, but they still enjoyed it. 180 daimyo of the wine city. It is worth mentioning that Jack the Drow is also in this ranks, and he still wants to continue walking with the dimension retrograde. Under such circumstances, Dean Riding also showed a look of hesitation on his face, and in the end he did not drive Jack the Drow away on the spot. Although he didn't want Jack the Drow to directly join the dimensional retrograde, he couldn't just drive any one of them away without any reason or excuse at this time. Once the person you meet leaves directly, then many people who stay will probably think too much. They will think that the people of the dimension retrograde want to use this method to indirectly exclude everyone who joins the patrol team. In other words, did the members of the inspection team not want them to stay at all at the beginning, and eventually join the 840th dimension retrograde? Many pirates have long been accustomed to being unrestrained in this sea, so it is very rare for them to be able to make such a decision. At this time, Tushan Yaya was also satisfied and began to allocate each pirate who joined, and listed them in a queue. Moreover, Tushan Yaya even considered each of them's personality and handling style comprehensively before making the assignment. After all, although many people want to directly join the dimensional retrograde, if they do not have the corresponding self-confidence and corresponding record and strength, they simply cannot continue to stay on Dolawega Island. A group of really vicious and vicious big pirates have been staying on the island, wanting to join the dimension retrograde, and among these guys, a lot of battles will break out every day. War. Advertisement. Almost anyone who wants to join the dimensional retrograde can't shirk the upcoming challenge. And some of the weak have already died under the challenge, and they didn't even wait for the trials to officially start. BAFD. At the same time, on the other side, the reputation of Dora Vega Island began to spread wildly to the surroundings. As long as it is a gathering place for pirates, there are basically fine wines spread from this island. The caravans from all over the place added the fine wine of Doravi Island, one of the most in-demand goods on the spot. Numerous civilians and pirates are crazily enjoying the corresponding fine wines. For them, these fine wines are something that can be encountered but not sought after. Under such circumstances, they are naturally unwilling to let go of these corresponding fine wines easily. In a certain tavern, members of the Luogia pirates directly mingled with the crowd of many pirates, and began to suffer crazily, grabbing the wine in front of them. I didn't expect these fellows of the voluntary retrogrades to be so good at making fine wine. This kind of fine wine is something I have never seen in my life. Even Luogia at this moment had a look of excitement on his face, he could clearly sense that this kind of beautification was much better than the one he had tasted last time. And Pluton Rayleigh on the side also said a little excitedly, who would have thought that those guys with such strong combat power, the dimensional retrograde, would actually make good wine. Jabba said. The most important thing is that the inner guy turned the whole island into a wine capital. At least from today, I'm afraid that island will become the absolute core base of their pirate group. 181 The possibility of getting rid of heavenly gold. Now the island of Dora Vega has completely become the real wine capital, and many merchant ships have all rushed to this island, wanting to order a large amount of wine from it, and then spread it all over the world. After all, the competitiveness of such fine wines in the entire world is still very strong. There is a very simple way for many big pirates to obtain Bailey, but the speed at which they obtain corresponding wealth is very fast. Therefore, under such circumstances, they shot non-stop, so, when conducting dimensional dumping, they also did not hesitate at all. Under such circumstances, many merchants also like to do corresponding education with these pirates. Of course, all of these have corresponding security guarantees. On the entire sea, there is no shortage of islands in charge of safety and security, so the speed of transmission becomes faster and faster every week. In a certain desert area, an urgent negotiation is going on in the palace of Alabasta. Cordella, the current king of Alabasta, frowned this year, and said directly, "The bastards of the world government have raised the height again, and the next time the share of gold in the sky. If they continue to exploit like this, I'm afraid our kingdom will officially enter the recession stage." At this time, Alabasta also had a certain reputation in the entire region, but their country had begun to decline slowly. The income of the people and the extreme lack of water sources within the party state have greatly restricted their development of Alabasta. Many ministers below also began to complain helplessly. Advertisement. We have tried everything, but the number of water sources in the kingdom has become less and less during this time. We have even sent special guards to fetch water from distant seashores, but the seawater cannot be used directly. Therefore, we can only buy corresponding water sources from caravans at high prices. But it is precisely because this continues that the dimensions of our country will be consumed crazily, and all the dimensions are used to purchase water sources, so our country cannot continue to develop. The whole mission of Alabasta is at a loss and they don't know where the future of their country is. Zero looking for flowers. And at this time, the young Cobra, the future king of Alabasta, with big innocent eyes, said directly, "Then why don't we just get rid of them?" As soon as these words came out, the entire court was completely silent, and the eyes of many people began to shine brightly. They suddenly discovered that perhaps what Cobra said was also a very good way. Zero. However, at this time, the current king Cordera said directly, "But the power of the world government and marine is too strong, and it is impossible for me, Alabasta alone, to fight against them. If we directly announce our separation from the world government, he may soon be devastated by them. In order to absolutely maintain their control, the people of the world government will always appear directly on the scene at the first time, and forcefully attack all kingdoms and forces that refuse to form an alliance with the world government. Under such circumstances, all countries and forces that have joined the protection of the World Alliance must give the corresponding Heavenly Golden 3 within a certain period of time. Point 182 The beginning of expansion of power. And this resource also has a very nice name, that is offering. The reason why the world government can rise rapidly and cultivate a large amount of combat power, and the number of marines is becoming more and more large, is because the world government has gained a lot of dimensions and wealth. After these resources and wealth entered the world government, they were directly imported into 303 from various channels, which has led to the vigorous development of the world government and marine. It can be said unceremoniously that the world government marine is completely supported by a large number of forces and kingdoms in this world. But each country does not want to do this at all from the bottom of their hearts, but in order for their own country to continue to survive, they can only endure the humiliation. Situations like Alabasta have already happened to many small countries. Then, the minister below suddenly started to get cold again. Isn't there a dimension retrograde on the sea now? And they seem to be very strong. After attacking Mariajoy and destroying it into a pile of ruins, they escaped completely. At that time, I thought we could try this place. Maybe they would accept us to join. If they want a certain amount of dimension, we can also contribute, but the emperor must be less than the dimension given to the world government. That's right, those guys from the world government want too much, and the policy for obtaining dimension retrogrades will be different. Advertisement. After hearing that all the ministers below agreed to this proposal, King Cordera patted his son Cobra on the head lightly, and then said, "Then do as my son said, immediately to contact the person who rebels in the dimension." On the other side, on the island of Dora Vega, Dean Riding and others soon directly received the corresponding news from Alabasta. Dean Riding quickly brought the group together. Hearing this, Tushan Yaya said with a strange expression, "There are people who want to directly join our dimension retrograde, so should we be like other pirate groups? Directly establish Uncle's own power and territory." Hearing Dean Riding here is also a bit tricky. 0. It is naturally good for someone to take the initiative to come to seek refuge, but the reason why he did not make a quick decision is because after all, Alabasta is in East Blue and there is still a certain distance between where they are now. And it doesn't belong to New World. If the dimension retrogrades want to shelter Alabasta, they need to build a base within the range of East Blue. Because it is conceivable that once everyone in the world knows that Alabasta belongs to the shelter of the dimensional retrograde, then the world government and marine will absolutely not allow this kind of thing to continue. If the previous dimension 1.2 retrogrades only hurt their face, then the next dimension retrogrades are likely to break their foundation. Even with the overall consideration of the future, the world government and marine will join hands and quickly start annihilating Alabasta. If the dimensional rebels accept their surrender, it is naturally impossible to watch them be completely wiped out by the world government marine. Point 183 The necessity of acceptance. Therefore, the people of the dimension retrograde may need to be dispatched again. And that's why Dean Riding brought everyone here directly for discussion. At this moment, the black dragon Akunologia suddenly stood up and said, "Although it will take some time for the few of us to recover our true strength, are we going to stay here forever during this period of time?" Since Alabasta has taken the initiative to seek refuge, we must not back down. This first kingdom is just the beginning. In the follow-up process, more and more countries will appear directly in our hands. I do think we should just start doing it right away. At this time, Ulquiorra Cipher also directly stood up and said, yes, I thought this matter was an excellent start. And it's not just Alabasta in East Blue who wants to break free from the world government. After all, in East Blue, all the kingdoms need to hand over the same amount of heavenly gold. In this way, other subjugated kingdoms must have corresponding ideas. Dean writing, I think we can go directly to East Blue and build a new base. In this way, we may slowly eat up the entire East Blue. Of course, all of this needs to be done in secret, otherwise, the world government and marine may frantically encircle us. Advertisement. After the last battle in the Holy Land of Mariajoy, everyone has a clearer understanding of the strength of the world government. World government's high-end combat power may not be that strong, but their background is very deep, and they can always come up with unexpected combat methods at critical moments. Ace Kano waved his hand indifferently, and said, I don't care, anyway, as long as there is sunlight shining, I can set foot in it casually. And at this time, the black and white two masters directly stood up and said, Dean writing, we can obtain enough information for everyone, and quickly deliver the information at the most critical moment. With the blessing of intelligence, we should not be as passive as before when facing the world government. Because before this, there were too many dimensional retrogrades, but there were no corresponding suitable candidates for delivering information, and the method of obtaining information was also very simple. Because of this, when Black-White Zetsu appeared, all this changed completely. First of all, Black Zetsu and White Zetsu are absolutely loyal to Dean writing, and their abilities also ensure that they can detect the corresponding information and pass on information by various unpredictable means. This is definitely very good news for everyone in the dimension retrograde. At least in the future, when they act, they won't worry that people from the world government and marine will catch them off guard. Under the crowd's words, Dean writing flashed a firm look on his face, and then said, okay, since that's the case, then we will build a new base in East Blue, and finish it as soon as possible. The kingdom joins in. However, the early stage of the project still needs to focus on intelligence work. 184 The movement of two groups of people. So during this period of time, it's better for me to go with Ulquiorra Cipher and the Black Dragon Akunologia. For the rest of you, stay on Doravega Island first. After all, this island is now our base camp, and there must be no accidents in it. Moreover, this island is also a huge cash flow collection place for those who are dimensional retrogrades. Because Dean writing brews all kinds of fine wines, he has a great reputation in the whole sea, and the brewing of this kind of fine wine requires some extremely unique techniques. Because of this, it is difficult for the heavy duty above the sea to imitate this fine wine. This also led to very expensive wines produced on Dorawaiga Island, but the sales volume was very high. Of course, Dean writing has already produced several relatively popular wines. Therefore, the entire fine wine market above the entire sea basically belongs to Doraweja. In the case of occupying the market for a long time, a large amount of funds are still frantically pouring into this island like a tide. Moreover, a large number of caravans began to enter and exit the island crazily. This has also led to the rapid development of all walks of life on the island. Under such circumstances, the Dimension rebels naturally cannot let the island go easily. And it is no exaggeration to say that there are countless people secretly planning this island every moment. And it was precisely because of the timely establishment of the Dimensional Inspection Team that the invisible light in many cases was completely suppressed inside the corner. Advertisement. It is worth mentioning that even if it was the drought that he reluctantly joined in before, Jack survived without one at this time. Dean writing didn't even know what this guy was thinking when he found out about it. You must know that in the future drought, K is a very tyrannical person. Dean writing can only blame this guy for the reason, and it hasn't reached the worst step yet. If this is the case, Dean writing naturally hopes to spend a certain amount of energy to see if this guy can control his character. After all, no matter from which point of view, this guy is a real fierce general. Tushan Yaya, and the rest of you, all of you stay inside this island. If there is an unexpected situation, the White Zetsu and Black Zetsu can quickly pass the news. Tushan Yaya and the others did not have any opinion on this decision. Especially Tushan Yaya herself, since this period of time, she has been carrying out corresponding defense and government affairs on the island, which makes Tushan Yaya feel very fulfilled. And most importantly, she also enjoyed this feeling very much. In the absence of Dean writing and the other members of the retrograde dimension, Tushan Yaya grasped the lifeline of the entire island of Monuo. It is also because of this that Tushan Yaya is basically under one person and above 10,000 people, so she naturally feels very happy. In this way, Dean writing led the Black Dragon and Ulquiorra Cipher and began to move towards East Blue. At this time, the black and white two senses have long since disappeared. With their fast-moving method in the deep underground, they can naturally go in and out of the islands at will. 185 Dean writing's woman. Just after Dean writing completely left the island, Tushan Yaya also began to inspect the entire island more high-profile work, and even made a special trip to deal with a group of big pirates who did not follow the rules, and directly expelled them from the inspection team. But when this group of big pirates were directly expelled, they were reluctant to leave the island. Instead, they stayed in various taverns, frantically telling what they had seen and heard during this period of time. Do you know, all the economic lifeline of this island, and even the power, are all in the hands of that woman, Tushin Yaya. I really don't know what Dean 253 writing thinks. This island is now called the wine capital, and the wealth and things every day are very complicated and important, but Dean writing doesn't hesitate throw it to Tushan Yaya. Why do I feel that Dean writing seems a little confused? Isn't he afraid that Tushan Yaya will directly occupy the magpie's nest? In fact, similar problems have always existed above the sea. As the reputation of the wine city grows, among the dimensional retrogrades, the corresponding personality of each crew member has already been explored clearly by everyone. Badge. Among the many known members, Tushan Yaya's current power is definitely the most enviable and enviable. No one understands why Dean writing has absolute trust in Tushan Yaya. With the existence of some systems, not only Tushan Yaya, but even everyone in Dimension Retrograde can't easily betray Dean writing. And the most surprising thing is that even Senju Hashirama and Ace Kano would take photos quickly after Tushan Yaya spoke. Because the pattern of the entire Dimension Retrograde has been fixed by the evacuated ones. Advertisement. Senju Hashirama does not want to deal with any government affairs for the time being, and Ace Kano's character is doomed that he can only become an admiral, or hide his identity and hide among the crowd. So the current girder can only be picked up directly by Tushan Yaya. As for the Black Dragon and Ulquiorra cipher, Dean writing has other arrangements, so he doesn't want them to put too much energy on managing the island. The discussion in the tavern also began to gradually become lively. What's so hard to understand? Tushan Yaya, but she is a real beauty, and it's normal for Dean writing to bow down directly under her pomegranate skirt. That's right. If it wasn't for Tushan Yaya's strong enough strength, I would have tried to pursue her. I've given up on this idea a long time ago. After all, none of the members of Dimension Retrograde is a normal person, they are all real monsters. In the last battle, the powerful strength displayed by the Dimension Rebels has long been deeply imprinted in the hearts of many big pirates. Therefore, under such circumstances no one dares to act lightly. And just like that, with the joint efforts of Tushan Yaya people, the entire Doorway Island is temporarily in a state of stability and harmony. Under such circumstances, Dean writing and others quickly came directly to East Blue's position. After White Zetsu got in touch with Alabasta's people in advance, Dean writing and his party went directly to Alabasta's palace through the secret passage.